Chapter 1. The Girl Who Should Be Dead. Milan, late October 2025. The city smelled of rain on stone and expensive perfume that never quite covered the gun oil. Celeste Amato walked through Galleria Vittorio Emanuele II with her head down and her coat collar turned up, even though the rain had stopped an hour ago. 26 years old. Black hair cut sharp at the jaw, eyes the color of wet slate. A thin white scar ran diagonally across her left eyebrow, the only visible reminder of the night she was supposed to die. She wasn't supposed to be alive. Officially, Celeste Amato had died in a car bomb on the A4 Autostrada 3 years earlier. Unofficially, she'd crawled out of the burning wreckage with third-degree burns on her left arm, hidden under long sleeves, 2 fractured ribs, and a burning need to disappear better than anyone had ever disappeared before. She'd done it. New name, new passport, new face, minor plastic work, nothing dramatic, just enough to make old photos questionable. She'd moved countries twice, learned to speak French with a perfect Parisian accent, and spent the last 18 months working as a private conservator restorer for a discreet auction house that dealt exclusively with stolen art returning to private hands. No one looked twice at a quiet woman in her mid-20s who could remove varnish layers without breathing. Until tonight. She was crossing the Galleria's central mosaic floor when she felt it, that particular prickle at the nape of the neck that meant someone was watching her with intent, not curiosity. She didn't look up. She didn't slow. She simply changed trajectory, veered left toward the Prada boutique instead of continuing straight toward the Duomo exit. The feeling followed, clean steps, measured, male, expensive shoes. She slipped into the crowd near the Louis Vuitton window, used the reflection to scan. Tall, dark coat, no umbrella despite the earlier rain. Face mostly shadowed by the brim of a fedora he had no business wearing in 2025 unless he wanted to look like a cliché. But he wasn't a cliché. He was Raffaele De Santis, 34, Don of the De Santis family, the family that had ordered the bomb that was supposed to kill her father, her brother, and her, the family that had succeeded with the first 2 and failed with the last. And now he was here, in her city, in her gallery of life. Her pulse didn't spike. It settled. Cold, slow, certain. She'd spent 3 years preparing for the possibility that one day the past would find her. She just hadn't expected it to wear brioni and smell like cedarwood and quiet violence from 10 meters away. Celeste kept walking, out of the Galleria, across Piazza del Duomo, down via Torino. She made 3 deliberate turns, left, right, left, into narrower streets, testing. He followed. Never closer than 15 meters, never farther than 25, professional. She could respect the craftsmanship even as she hated the man. When she reached the small palazzo courtyard she'd chosen 6 months ago as her emergency exit route, she stopped pretending. She turned, he stopped too. 10 meters separated them. Street lamp light cut sharp angles across his face. Dark eyes, sharp cheekbones. A mouth that looked like it knew how to smile and how to give orders that ended lives, probably in the same breath. Raffaele De Santis tilted his head slightly. Signorina, he asked, voice low, accented Milanese Italian that carried Rome underneath. Polite, almost gentle. Celeste answered in French. Pure, Parisian, untouchable. Je crois que vous vous trompez de personne, monsieur. He smiled then. Small, private, dangerous. Your French is excellent, he said, switching to the same language without missing a beat. Almost perfect. The only thing that gives you away is the way you hold your left arm. Slightly stiff, protective, like someone who remembers what it feels like when fire tries to eat bone. Celeste didn't flinch. She simply reached into her coat pocket. He tensed, fractionally. She pulled out a pack of cigarettes and a lighter, lit one, inhaled, exhaled smoke between them like drawn line. If you know who I am, she said, back to Italian now, voice calm, then you know why I should put a bullet between your eyes right here. Raffaele didn't move. I know why you think you should, he said. I also know you haven't done it yet, which means either you're waiting for a better shot or you're curious. She took another drag. I'm not curious. I'm patient. His smile edged wider. Good. Patience is a rare quality in our world. There is no our world, she said. You burned mine down. I built a new one. You don't get to walk into it. He studied her for a long moment, like he was seeing something he hadn't expected. Then he said very quietly, I didn't give the order. Celeste laughed. Once, sharp, humorless. You're the Don now. You speak for the family. The family speaks with your voice. I wasn't done then, he answered. I was 31. My father was still breathing, and he never told me the target was the entire Amato family. He told me it was a message to your father about territory. Your brother was supposed to walk away. You were never mentioned. He paused. When I found out the full scope of the order, after the fact, I had the men who wired the car killed. Slowly. Celeste didn't blink. And your father? Raffaele's expression didn't change. Heart attack. 6 months later. Convenient. Natural causes can be arranged, he said simply. Smoke curled between them. She flicked ash onto the wet cobblestones. So you come to Milan. Why? To apologize? To explain? To tie up loose ends? Raffaele took one measured step forward. I came because someone leaked that Celeste Amato is still breathing, and they're offering proof to every family in northern Italy that still remembers the Amato name. Proof that includes current photographs, current address, current routine. He let that settle, then softer. They want to finish what my father started. I don't. Celeste studied him. Why should I believe you? You shouldn't, he said. But you should believe that if they succeed, they won't stop with you. They'll come for anyone who ever sheltered you, anyone who helped you disappear, anyone whose name is even whispered next to yours. He took another step. Now only 6 meters separated them. I can keep you safe, he said. She laughed again, colder this time. I've kept myself safe for 3 years without your help. And now the clock is ticking faster than you can run, he answered. You're good. You're very good. But you're one person. They're a consortium. Old blood, old money, old grudges. He paused. I'm offering you protection, resources, time to disappear again, properly this time, new continent, new identity, clean money. And in return, Raffaele's eyes never left hers. You come under my roof, under my protection, until the threat is eliminated. Celeste inhaled smoke, held it, let it out slowly. You want me to live with you. I want you alive, he corrected. Where I can see you, where I can control the perimeter, where I can make sure no one reaches you before I reach them. She tilted her head. And how long do you expect me to play house guest with the man whose family murdered mine? As long as it takes, he said. She flicked the cigarette to the ground, crushed it under her boot. Then she stepped forward, closing the distance to 3 meters, looked straight up into his face. If I say yes, you don't touch me. You don't own me. You don't decide when I leave. Raffaele inclined his head. The smallest acknowledgement. You'll have your own suite, your own security, your own life inside the walls. The only rule is you don't leave the compound without my knowledge. Celeste searched his face, looking for the lie, the angle, the trap. She didn't find it, but she didn't trust the absence either. She spoke very quietly. One condition. He waited. When the threat is gone, I walk away. No strings, no tail, no second attempt to protect me later. Raffaele considered. Then he extended his hand. Agreed. She looked at his hand for a long moment. Then she took it. His grip was warm, firm, calloused in a way that spoke of guns more than paperwork. They shook once. He didn't let go immediately. Pack what you need, he said. My car will be outside your apartment in 2 hours. She pulled her hand free. I'll be ready. He nodded once, turned, walked away into the Milan night. Celeste stood in the courtyard until his footsteps faded. Then she pulled out her phone, deleted every contact she'd made in the last 18 months, changed her SIM, and started walking toward the apartment she'd sworn she'd never have to abandon. 2 hours later, a black Maserati Levante idled outside her building. Driver in front, back door open. Raffaele De Santis waited inside. Celeste climbed in without a word. The door closed with a soft, final sound. The car pulled away from the curb. Milan disappeared behind tinted glass, and the girl who should have been dead 3 years ago went home with the man who should have made sure she stayed that way. Chapter 2. The House of Thorns. The drive from Milan to Lake Como took just over an hour, but it felt like crossing into another country entirely. The city lights faded, replaced by winding roads flanked by dark pines and the occasional glimpse of black water reflecting the moon. Raffaele drove himself. No chauffeur, no entourage. Just the low hum of the Maserati's engine and the silence that stretched between them like taut wire. Celeste sat in the passenger seat with her small black duffel on her lap. She'd packed light. 2 changes of clothes, her laptop, a burner phone, the few tools she couldn't replace, fine brushes, solvent vials, a set of micro scalpels. Everything else could burn. She didn't look at him. She watched the road instead. The way headlights cut sharp tunnels through the nightlight, the way the lake appeared suddenly like spilled ink. Raffaele spoke once, halfway there. The compound is on the eastern shore, private, 30 acres, high walls, water on 3 sides. She answered without turning her head. I know where the De Santis villa is. Everyone in northern Italy knows. A faint exhale that might have been amusement. Then you know the rules. No leaving without clearance, no outside calls, no visitors. Celeste finally glanced at him. And if I need supplies, paints, chemicals, you make a list. My people get it, same-day delivery. She returned her gaze to the window. Convenient. Necessary. The car slowed as they approached a gated entrance carved into the hillside. 2 stone pillars topped with wrought iron thorns. A gate that looked ornamental but moved with the heavy hydraulic silence of military-grade steel. It opened without Raffaele touching anything. Cameras tracked them as they passed through. The driveway wound upward, gravel crunching under tires, until the villa appeared. Not a mansion. A fortress pretending to be a villa. Pale stone walls, arched windows. A central courtyard lit by low lanterns. Ivy crawling over everything like it was trying to pull the building back into the earth. Raffaele parked in the shadowed garage beneath the east wing. He killed the engine. Celeste didn't move. He looked at her. You can walk away now. Last chance. She met his eyes. Cold, steady. I'm already inside your world. Walking away doesn't change that. He nodded once. Then he got out. She followed. Inside, the villa smelled of old wood, leather, and something faintly herbal. Sage, maybe, or rosemary burned to ward off more than bad luck. The foyer was vast, marble floor, double staircase curving upward, a crystal chandelier that looked like frozen rain. No staff waited, no welcome party. Raffaele led her up the right staircase, down a long corridor lined with closed doors. He stopped at the last one, pushed it open. The suite was larger than her Milan apartment. Sitting room with fireplace, bedroom with 4-poster bed, bathroom in black marble, walk-in closet already half filled with clothes in her size, dark neutrals, long sleeves, nothing flashy. Celeste stepped inside, touched nothing. Raffaele stayed in the doorway. Everything you need is here. Food will be brought up if you don't want to join meals. There's a small studio at the end of the hall, north-facing light, easels, supplies. Use it whenever you want. She turned to face him. Why the studio? Because you're an artist, and because I'd rather you paint than plot. She almost smiled. Smart. He didn't return it. Ground rules. You don't go into the West Wing. That's family quarters and offices. You don't use any phone except the encrypted one on the nightstand. You don't open windows after dark, and you don't trust anyone here except me. Celeste raised an eyebrow. Not even your own people? Especially not them. He stepped back. I'll be down the hall if you need anything. He started to close the door. Wait. He paused. She asked the question she'd been holding since the courtyard. Why me? Really? You could have sent men. You could have handled the leak without bringing me here. Why drag me into your house? Raffaele looked at her for a long moment, long enough that she felt the weight of whatever answer he was choosing. Then he said, because the only way to keep you alive is to make everyone believe you're mine. The door closed softly behind him. Celeste stood in the center of the room, listened to his footsteps fade. Then she walked to the window, floor to ceiling, overlooking the lake. Moonlight silvered the water. She pressed her palm to the cold glass, and for the first time since the bomb 3 years ago, she allowed herself to feel the fear, not the sharp adrenaline of survival, the slow, deep fear of being owned. She unpacked, hung nothing in the closet, kept the duffel by the bed. Then she found the studio. It was exactly as he described. North light, even at night with the lamps. Easels, tubes of oil paint, brushes, canvas stretched and primed. She stood in the doorway a long time, then she walked to the nearest easel, picked up a brush, dipped it in black, and began. The first stroke was violent, slash across the white like a wound. She didn't stop. Hours passed. When she finally stepped back, hands smeared, shirt speckled, the canvas showed a figure in shadow, tall, faceless, standing over a burning car. Crimson bled from the edges like spilled blood. She signed it in the corner, not her old name, not her new one, just a small, sharp C. Then she cleaned her hands, went back to the suite, locked the door, and slept with the knife from her duffel under the pillow. Morning came gray and cold. A soft knock at 8:15. She opened the door. A woman stood there, mid-50s, silver hair in a neat bun, wearing a simple black dress. "Signorina Celeste, I'm Elena. I manage the house." Celeste nodded. Elena pushed a silver tray into the room. Coffee, fresh bread, fruit, a small vase with one white rose. "Breakfast. Signor Raffaele said you may prefer to eat here today." Celeste took the tray. "Thank you." Elena hesitated. "He also said, if you need anything at all, you ring the bell by the bed, day or night." Celeste met her eyes. "And if I ring for him?" Elena's expression didn't change. "He'll come." The door closed. Celeste set the tray on the small table by the window, poured coffee, drank it black. Then she opened the encrypted phone on the nightstand. One contact, R. She typed, "Studio is adequate. I'll need more black and crimson tomorrow." The reply came almost instantly. "Noted." "Lunch at 1. Join me if you want, or don't." She stared at the message, then deleted it. She spent the morning in the studio, painting, not thinking. When 1 came, she cleaned up, changed into one of the provided outfits, black cashmere sweater, dark jeans, walked downstairs. The dining room was on the ground floor, long table, windows overlooking the lake. Raffaele sat at the head, alone. He looked up when she entered. Didn't smile, just nodded toward the chair on his right. She sat. Food arrived. Simple, risotto with saffron, grilled lake fish, salad. They ate in silence at first. Then he spoke. "You painted last night?" She glanced at him. "How do you know?" "Cameras in the studio, motion activated. I don't watch the feed unless there's an alert." She set her fork down. "Trust issues? Practicality." She picked up the fork again. "Did you like it?" He met her eyes. It looked angry. It was. Another silence. Then he said, "I have a meeting tonight. I'll be gone until after midnight. The house will be locked down. You'll be safe." She nodded. "If something happens while you're gone, my men know to protect you first." She looked at him. Really looked. "Why?" He set his napkin aside. "Because if they get to you, they get to me. You're leverage now. The best kind. The kind I won't let them take." Celeste studied him. "You're admitting I'm a weakness. I'm admitting you're the only thing in this house that matters more than the empire." The words hung between them. Heavy, uncomfortable, true. She stood. "I'll be in the studio." He watched her leave. Didn't stop her. That night, the house felt different. Quiet, empty. Celeste painted until her hands cramped. When she finally stopped, the canvas showed the same shadowed figure, only now the figure had a face. His face. She stared at it. Then she covered it with a drop cloth. Decked, went to bed. Sleep came slow. When it came, she dreamed of fire and of a man who stood in the flames, hand extended. She woke at 2:47 a.m. to the sound of the front door opening downstairs. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. She sat up. Listened. The footsteps climbed the stairs, stopped outside her door. A soft knock. She reached for the knife. "Who is it?" His voice, low, tired. "Me." She exhaled. Opened the door. Raffaele stood there, coat still on, hair damp from the night mist. A thin cut on his left cheekbone. Fresh. He looked at her, then at the knife in her hand. "You're awake. You're bleeding." He touched the cut. Minor disagreement. She stepped aside. "Let me see." He entered. She closed the door, led him to the bathroom, made him sit on the edge of the tub, cleaned the cut with antiseptic. He didn't flinch. She asked, "Trouble? Someone tried to sell information about you. I convinced them otherwise." She pressed gauze to the wound. "And?" "He won't sell anything else." Celeste finished, stepped back, looked at him. "You didn't have to tell me." "I know." She held his gaze. "Then why did you?" He stood slowly. "Because the alternative is letting you wake up tomorrow and wonder if the next knock is someone else." He moved toward the door, paused, "Get some sleep." He left. Celeste stood in the bathroom, stared at the bloody gauze in the sink. Then she walked back to the studio, pulled the drop cloth off the canvas, stared at the face she'd painted. Then she picked up the black paint and painted over it, completely, until nothing remained but shadow. Chapter 3. Lines that bleed. The next 3 days passed in a strange, suspended rhythm. Celeste woke early, habit from years of never feeling completely safe, and went straight to the studio. She painted until her shoulders ached, until the light shifted from pale morning gray to afternoon gold. Raffaele never interrupted. He appeared only at meals, always polite, always distant. They ate together in the dining room, conversation limited to small things: the weather over the lake, the quality of the fish, the progress of her latest canvas, which he never asked to see. He never pushed, never touched, never looked at her like she was prey. And that made it worse, because every time he walked into a room, the air changed, thicker, warmer, edged with something she refused to name. On the fourth morning, she found a new delivery in the studio, a crate of supplies she hadn't asked for. Titanium white in every grade, cadmium red deep, a set of sable brushes that cost more than most people's rent. Tucked inside was a small note in Raffaele's precise handwriting, for when black and crimson aren't enough. She stared at it, then she burned it in the small fireplace. But she used the brushes anyway. That afternoon, she heard raised voices from the west wing, low, controlled, but angry. Italian too fast for her to catch every word, but she recognized Raffaele's tone, steel wrapped in velvet. She didn't go closer. Instead, she painted. When the voices stopped, the house fell quiet again. At dinner, Raffaele's cheek had a fresh bruise blooming under the eye, faint purple, the kind that came from a fist, not an accident. He sat across from her, poured wine for both of them. She waited until the staff left. Then, "Who hit you?" He took a sip. "A disagreement with one of my capos. Resolved." Resolved with fists? Sometimes fists are faster than words. She studied him. "You let him hit you. I let him think he could." She leaned forward. "And then?" Then he remembered why he answers to me. Celeste held his gaze. "You're bleeding again." He touched the corner of his mouth, small split, barely noticeable. "Occupational hazard." She stood, walked around the table, stood in front of him. He didn't move. She reached out, slow enough for him to stop her if he wanted. He didn't. She tilted his chin up with 2 fingers, examined the split lip. Then she pressed a clean napkin to it. Gentle, clinical. He watched her the entire time, breathing steady, but his eyes had gone darker. When she pulled the napkin away, she asked, "Does it hurt?" "No." Liar. A ghost of a smile. "Only a little." She stepped back. "Next time, don't let them think they can." He stood, slow, deliberate. Now they were close enough that she could smell the faint cedar of his cologne mixed with the metallic tang of blood. "I'll keep that in mind." She turned to leave. He caught her wrist, gentle, not restraining. She froze. He spoke softly. "Thank you." She looked at his hand on her wrist, then at his face. "You're welcome." He released her. She walked out. That night, she couldn't sleep. She went back to the studio. The painting from the first night, the one she'd covered, was still there, hidden under the drop cloth. She pulled it off. The black overpaint had dried unevenly. She could still see faint traces of his face beneath. She stared at it. Then she picked up the new titanium white and began to layer over it again. But this time she didn't cover everything. She left the eyes. Just the eyes. Gray, sharp, watching. When she finished, she stepped back. The canvas looked like a ghost staring out of shadow. She signed it again. Just C. Then she left it uncovered. Morning came. She found Raffaele in the kitchen. First time she'd seen him there, he was making coffee. Black. Strong. He poured a second cup without asking. Handed it to her. She took it. They stood in silence while the lake outside turned from black to steel gray. Then he said, "I saw the painting." She sipped. "And?" "It's honest." She looked at him. "You're not angry?" "Why would I be?" "Because it's you, and I painted you without permission." He set his cup down. "Paint me however you want. Just don't paint me as the villain." She studied him. "You're not the villain?" "I've been the villain to a lot of people," he said quietly, "but not to you. Not anymore." She didn't answer. He continued. "The threat is escalating. The leak has spread. 2 families are offering bounties now. One wants proof of death. The other wants you alive, for leverage against me." Celeste's grip tightened on the cup. "How long?" "Days. Maybe a week," she exhaled. "Then we need a better plan than hiding." He nodded. "I have one." He pulled a folder from the counter, opened it. Maps, blueprints, timelines. "We move you. Not out of Italy. Too obvious. We move you to the family estate in Sicily, my mother's old house. Remote, fortified. I'll come with you. We draw them out there, on our ground." She looked at the blueprints. "Trap." "Exactly." She met his eyes. "And if they don't come, then we disappear. New identities, new continent. I'll hand the family over to my cousin. You'll never see Milan again." Celeste stared. "You'd give up everything? For your life?" He paused. "Yes." The word hung between them. Heavy. Irrevocable. She looked away, looked at the lake, then back at him. "Okay." He closed the folder. "We leave tomorrow night. Pack light. We'll be gone for a while." She nodded. Then she asked, "And the children?" He frowned. "What children?" "Your family. The people who depend on you. You can't just walk away." Raffaele's expression softened, barely. I have no children, no wife, no one who needs me the way you need protection right now. She searched his face. No one? No one. Silence. Then she said, good. He raised a brow. She clarified, because if you had someone, I'd never let you risk them for me. He stepped closer. Now only a breath separated them. I'm risking everything for you anyway. She didn't move back. Why? He reached out, slow, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Because 3 years ago, I failed to protect you, and I've spent every day since trying to find a way to make it right. His fingers lingered against her cheek. She let them. Then she stepped back. I'm going to paint. He watched her go. That night, she packed. The duffel again. She left the painting in the studio, uncovered. The eyes still watching. When she came downstairs at midnight, Raffaele waited by the door. Black coat, black bag. He looked at her. Ready? She nodded. They left the house in darkness. No lights, no farewell, just the two of them. A car waiting, a plane waiting, and a future neither of them could see clearly. But for the first time since the bomb, Celeste didn't feel alone in it. Chapter 4. The Sicilian Reckoning. The flight from Milan to Palermo was short, barely 90 minutes, but the change in air when they stepped off the private jet felt like stepping into another life. Warm wind off the Tyrrhenian Sea, the sharp scent of salt and wild oregano, the sky a deeper, harder blue than anything Milan ever offered. A black Range Rover waited on the tarmac, engine running, no driver. Raffaele took the wheel again. Celeste slid into the passenger seat without a word. The drive to the family estate took another hour. Narrow roads climbing into the hills above Cefalù, past olive groves and crumbling stone walls, past villages that looked like they hadn't changed since the Normans. The estate appeared at the end of a private lane, a sprawling fortified villa built into the hillside. Pale limestone walls, iron gates, a central courtyard with a fountain that hadn't run in decades, towers at each corner. It looked like something out of a medieval painting, beautiful and forbidding in equal measure. Raffaele parked in the shaded garage. Celeste stepped out. The air was thick with heat and the sound of cicadas. He led her inside. No staff greeted them. The house felt lived in but empty, furniture covered in white sheets in some rooms, polished wood in others. A grand staircase curved upward, hallways stretched in every direction. He took her to the east wing, second floor. A suite similar to the one in Como, bedroom, sitting area, small private terrace overlooking the sea. The closet was already stocked. A small studio had been set up in an adjoining room, easels, paints, canvases, even a potter's wheel she hadn't asked for. Celeste touched the edge of one canvas. You planned this. Raffaele stood in the doorway. I planned for every possibility. She turned to face him. And if I had said no in Milan, I would have kept you safe anyway, just from farther away. She studied him. You're not used to hearing no. I'm used to people surviving. She walked past him onto the terrace. The sea stretched endless below, turquoise fading to deep indigo. Wind tugged at her hair. He followed. They stood side by side, not touching. She spoke quietly. How long? Until the threat is neutralized. Could be days, could be weeks. She nodded. And when it is, you decide. She looked at him. Decide what? Whether you stay or walk. Celeste turned her gaze back to the sea. I'll decide when the time comes. He didn't push. They spent the first day settling in. Raffaele showed her the security. Cameras, motion sensors, panic rooms, escape tunnels carved into the rock centuries ago. He showed her the armory. Polite, matter-of-fact, like showing a guest the wine cellar. She didn't touch any weapons, but she memorized the locations. That night, dinner was simple. Pasta with sardines, bread, wine from the family vineyard. They ate on the terrace. No candles, just moonlight and the low hum of the sea. Conversation stayed surface level, until she asked, why Sicily? Raffaele poured more wine. My mother grew up here. She hated Milan, called it a city of ice and liars. When my father died, she came back. Lived here until the end. This house was hers. After she passed, I kept it empty, waiting. For what? For a reason to remember it wasn't just a tomb. Celeste sipped her wine. And I'm the reason? You're the first person I brought here since she died. Silence. Then she said, I'm not your redemption. I'm not asking for redemption, he answered. I'm asking for time. Time to make sure you live. She looked at him across the table. The moonlight caught the bruise under his eye, fading now, but still there. She reached across, touched it lightly. He didn't move. Does it still hurt? Only when I smile. She almost smiled herself. You don't smile much. I'm out of practice. Her fingers lingered, then she pulled back. Good night, Raffaele. She stood. He watched her go. That night she dreamed of fire again, but this time the man in the flames wasn't reaching for her. He was reaching for the child she used to be. She woke gasping, sweat on her skin. She went to the terrace. The sea was calm, moon high. She heard footsteps. Soft. Raffaele appeared in the doorway, shirt untucked, no shoes, hair mussed. He didn't speak, just stepped out, stood beside her. They watched the water. After a long time, she said, I dreamed of the bomb. He didn't look at her. I dream of it too. She turned. You weren't there. I saw the aftermath, the car, the bodies, the hole in the road. I thought you were gone. His voice was rough. I mourned you. Quietly. For months. Until I found the first whisper that you might have survived. Celeste stared. You mourned me? I did. She searched his face. Why? Because even then, I knew you were different. You were never supposed to be collateral. She exhaled. I'm still not sure I believe you. You don't have to. He stepped closer, not touching, just closer. But I need you to believe I'll die before I let anyone hurt you again. The words landed heavy. She looked away, back at the sea. Then she asked, what happens if we win? We. She glanced at him. Yes, we. He exhaled, slow, like relief. Then we decide what comes next, together, or apart, your choice, she nodded. Okay. They stood there until the moon began to sink. Then she went back inside. He followed. At her door she paused, turned. Thank you. For what? For not lying to me tonight. He inclined his head. Good night, Celeste. She closed the door, leaned against it, heart beating too fast. The next morning she woke to the sound of gunfire. Sharp cracks, controlled, rhythmic. She bolted upright, grabbed the knife, ran to the terrace. Below in the courtyard, Raffaele stood in a black t-shirt and cargo pants, firing a pistol at paper targets set against the far wall. Methodical, precise. Every shot center mass. He didn't miss. When the magazine ran dry, he reloaded, noticed her, lowered the gun. She leaned over the railing. Morning target practice? He holstered the pistol. Habit. She came downstairs, walked out into the courtyard. The sun was already hot. He watched her approach. She stopped in front of him, held out her hand. He looked at it, then placed the pistol in her palm. Heavy, cool. She checked the safety, raised it, aimed at the nearest target, fired, missed, fired again, hit the edge, fired a third time, center. She lowered the gun, handed it back. Not bad, he said. I've had practice. He took the pistol, holstered it. Then he asked, want to learn better? She met his eyes. Yes. He spent the morning teaching her. Stance, grip, breath control, sight picture. He stood behind her, close enough to adjust her shoulders, her elbows, but never touching more than necessary. When she finally put 3 rounds in the same hole, he said, good. She turned. They were close, too close, breath mingling. She looked up at him. He looked down, neither moved. Then she stepped back. I'm gonna paint. He nodded. I'll be here. She went inside, painted until sunset. The canvas showed the sea, and in the distance, a house on a hill with 2 figures standing on the terrace, small, almost invisible. But there. She signed it, C&R. Then she covered it and went to dinner. Raffaele waited. They ate. They talked. About nothing. About everything. And slowly, the distance between them shrank. Not in steps, in silences, in glances. In the way she no longer flinched when he entered a room. In the way he no longer looked at her like she might disappear. The trap was set. The enemy was coming. But in the House of Thorns on the Sicilian hill, something else was growing. Something neither of them had planned for. Something that felt dangerously like trust. Chapter 5. The First Crack. The Sicilian sun rose slow and merciless, turning the stone walls of the villa gold by mid-morning. Celeste woke to the sound of waves below the cliffs and the faint metallic click of a gun being cleaned somewhere in the courtyard. She dressed quickly. Long-sleeved linen shirt, dark jeans, boots. The knife stayed in her boot. The encrypted phone stayed silent on the nightstand. She hadn't touched it since the night they arrived. Downstairs, the house was quiet. No staff today. Raffaele had sent them away for the week. Fewer eyes, he'd said. Fewer risks. She found him in the courtyard, shirt sleeves rolled to the elbows, pistol disassembled on a small table. He was cleaning the barrel with focused precision, movements automatic, almost meditative. He looked up when she stepped into the sunlight. Morning, she nodded. Any word? He set the barrel down. Not yet. The bait is set. The families know we're here. They'll move when they're ready. Celeste walked to the low stone wall that overlooked the sea. How do you know they'll come? Because greed is louder than caution. She turned. And when they do, we end it. She studied him. The way the sunlight caught the scar on his jaw, the faint tension in his shoulders that never quite left. You're not worried. I'm prepared. She stepped closer. There's a difference. He stood. Now they were close enough that she could see the faint flecks of gold in his dark eyes. I've spent years preparing for this moment, he said. The only thing I didn't prepare for was you. Celeste held his gaze. Then prepare faster. A ghost of a smile touched his mouth. I'm trying. They spent the morning walking the perimeter. Raffaele showed her the weak points. Blind spots in the cameras, old service tunnels that had been sealed but could be reopened, the cliff path that led down to a hidden cove. He didn't treat her like glass. He treated her like a partner. She asked questions. He answered. When they reached the cove's small pebbled beach framed by jagged rocks, he stopped. The water was clear turquoise. No boats in sight. He pulled off his boots, rolled up his pants, waded in to the knees. Looked back at her. Come, she hesitated. Then kicked off her boots, rolled up her jeans, stepped into the water. It was cold. Shocking. Perfect. They stood there, water lapping at their calves. Silence. Then she said, I used to swim in Lake Como when I was small, before everything. He nodded. I used to swim here, with my mother. She said the sea washes away sins. Celeste looked at the horizon. Does it? Sometimes. She turned to him. And yours? He met her eyes, still waiting. She stepped closer. Water rippled between them. Then she reached out, touched the bruise on his cheek, faded now, almost gone. He didn't move. She traced the line of it, soft, careful. Then she dropped her hand. Thank you, she said. For what? For not rushing me. He exhaled, slow. I'm not in a hurry. She looked up at him. But you want to be. His voice was low, every second. She stepped even closer, their bodies almost touching. The water pushed and pulled around them. She rose on her toes, pressed her lips to the corner of his mouth, soft, brief, deliberate. Then pulled back. His breathing had changed. Rougher, but he didn't reach for her. He just watched. She smiled, small, real. Not yet. He nodded once. Not yet. They walked back up the path in silence. Lunch was quiet. Dinner was quieter. That night, the first sign came. A single encrypted message on Raffaele's phone from an unknown source, photo. Celeste walking the courtyard yesterday, time-stamped. Someone was already here. Raffaele stared at the screen. Then he looked at Celeste. They're closer than I thought. She stood. How many? At least 2, maybe more. She nodded. Then we wait. He shook his head. We move first. They spent the night preparing. Raffaele checked weapons. Celeste loaded magazines. They didn't speak much. 2 nights ahead, when the moon was high, they went out. 2 shadows moving through the olive grove. Raffaele led, Celeste followed. They found the first intruder near the eastern wall, young, nervous, watching the house through binoculars. Raffaele took him down silently, one hand over the mouth, one arm around the throat, out cold. Celeste searched him, found a phone. Photos, coordinates. A second message cued to send. Target confirmed. In position. She deleted it. They tied him, left him for later. The second man was harder to find. They tracked him to the cliff path. He was better. Trained. He heard them coming, turned, raised a pistol. Raffaele moved first, tackled him. They went down hard, rolling toward the edge. Celeste ran forward. The man fired, missed. Raffaele pinned him, pistol to the temple. Stop. The man froze. Celeste reached them, kicked the gun away. Raffaele looked up at her. You okay? She nodded. He zip-tied the man's wrists, dragged him back to the house. They questioned him in the basement. No torture, just pressure. Names, payment, employer. The man talked, a consortium, 3 families. They wanted Celeste dead. They wanted Raffaele weakened. They wanted the De Santis empire. Raffaele listened. Then he said, tell your employers the girl is under my protection permanently. Any move against her is a move against me, and I don't miss. The man nodded, terrified. Raffaele knocked him out, clean. They left both intruders bound in the old wine cellar. Called a cleanup crew trusted them from Palermo. By dawn, the intruders were gone. No trace, no bodies, just silence. Celeste and Raffaele stood on the terrace as the sun rose. She leaned against the railing. He stood beside her. She spoke first. You didn't kill them. I didn't need to. She looked at him, but you would have. If they'd touched you? Yes. She nodded, understood. Then she said, I'm not leaving. He turned to her. What? I'm not leaving Sicily or you. He stared. Celeste, I'm tired of running. I'm tired of hiding. If they want me, they can come. But they'll have to go through both of us. He stepped closer. You're sure? She rose on her toes, pressed her lips to his, soft at first, then deeper. He kissed her back, slow, careful, like he was afraid she'd vanish. When they separated, she whispered, I'm sure. He pulled her against him, held her tight. The sun climbed higher, the sea glittered, and in the House of Thorns, the first real crack appeared. Not in the walls, in the armor around both their hearts. Chapter 6, The Waiting Game. The villa settled into a tense, watchful hush after the intruders were removed. No more unexpected visitors, no more messages, just the slow, deliberate rhythm of waiting, for the consortium to regroup, for the next move, for the inevitable storm. Celeste and Raffaele moved through the days like two people sharing the same cage, aware of every inch between them, careful not to close it too quickly. Mornings belonged to routine. Celeste painted in the studio, larger canvases now, bolder strokes. The sea appeared in almost every piece, restless, shifting, never quite calm. Sometimes Raffaele's silhouette stood at the edge of the frame, small, distant, always watching. She never showed him. He never asked. Afternoons were for training. Raffaele taught her more than shooting, knife work, hand-to-hand, how to read a room for exits and weapons. He was patient, never condescending. When she pinned him once during sparring, a move he'd let her have, she suspected, he smiled against the mat. You're dangerous, he said. She leaned down, breath close to his ear. You have no idea. He flipped her in one smooth motion. Now he was on top, careful not to crush her. I'm starting to. They stared at each other, breathing hard. Then he rolled off, offered a hand. She took it. Evenings were quiet dinners on the terrace, wine, stories. Not the heavy ones yet, just fragments. He told her about his mother's garden in Sicily, how she grew lemons that tasted like sunlight. She told him about the first painting she ever sold, 16 years old, a small abstract of a burning bridge. A collector bought it for 300 euros. She used the money to buy better brushes. They laughed once, soft, surprised. The laughter felt foreign, but good. Nights were the hardest. The house was too big, too quiet. Celeste lay awake, listening to the sea, the wind, the faint creak of old stone settling. Sometimes she heard his footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate, stopping outside her door. He never knocked. She never opened it, but she knew he was there, guarding, waiting. On the 8th night, the waiting ended. A single encrypted message arrived on Raffaele's phone at 2:14 a.m. Celeste woke to the soft chime. She found him in the office, shirt untucked, gun already on the desk, screen glowing blue. He looked up when she entered. They're moving. She crossed the room. Stood beside him. The message was simple. 3 teams. Arrival window, dawn to noon. Primary target, the girl. Secondary, De Santis. No survivors requested. Celeste read it twice. Then she asked, how many? Estimated 12 to 15. Professional. Hired muscle. Not family. She nodded. We have the advantage. He looked at her. We have the ground. We have preparation. We have each other. She met his eyes. Then let's use it. They spent the next 3 hours planning. Raffaele mapped the approaches, cliff path, main gate, service road. Celeste suggested traps, simple, effective, tripwires with noise alarms, false trails leading to dead ends, choke points in the olive grove. He listened, adjusted. By 5:30 a.m., the villa was ready. They moved to the rooftop terrace, highest point, best view. Raffaele set up a sniper rifle. Celeste took the spotter scope. They waited. Dawn broke slow, pink bleeding into gold. At 7:42 a.m., the first vehicle appeared on the lower road. Black SUV, 2 more behind. They stopped at the gate. Men got out, armed, masked. Celeste counted, 11 visible, 2 more probably flanking. Raffaele spoke quietly. Ready? She nodded. He fired first. 1 clean shot. The lead man dropped. Chaos erupted. The team scattered. Some advanced, some retreated. Raffaele worked methodically. Shot, reload, shot. Celeste called targets. 2 o'clock behind the olive tree. He adjusted, fired, hit. They moved like they'd done this together for years. When the first team breached the courtyard, Raffaele switched to the assault rifle. Celeste took the pistol. They descended to the second-floor balcony, fired down, controlled bursts, precise. The fight lasted 23 minutes. When it ended, the courtyard was silent, bodies on the ground, some alive, most not. Raffaele lowered the rifle, looked at Celeste. You okay? She exhaled. Yes. He stepped closer, checked her for wounds, found none. Then he cupped her face, gentle thumbs brushing her cheekbones. You were perfect. She leaned into his touch. So were you. They stood there, breathing hard, adrenaline fading, something warmer rising. She rose on her toes, kissed him, not soft, not careful, hungry. He kissed her back, deep, claiming like he'd waited lifetimes for it. Hands in her hair, arms around her waist. They stumbled back into the house, door closed, up the stairs, into her suite. Clothes came off fast, urgent, desperate. His shirt, her sweater. Boots kicked aside. He lifted her onto the bed, kissed down her throat, her collarbone, lower. She arched, gasped his name. He paused, looked up at her. Tell me to stop. She pulled him closer. Don't you dare. They moved together, fierce, tender, everything at once. When they finished, they lay tangled, sweat cooling, breaths slowing. She traced the scar on his shoulder, old bullet wound. He kissed her forehead. You're safe now. She smiled against his chest. We're safe. They slept, deep, dreamless. When they woke, the sun was high. The house was quiet. Raffaele checked the perimeter. Clean. No more threats. The consortium had sent their best. They'd failed. Celeste stood on the terrace, looked at the sea. He joined her, wrapped his arms around her from behind. She leaned back into him. What now? She asked. He kissed the side of her neck. Now, we live. She turned in his arms, looked up at him. Together, he smiled, real, unguarded. Together, they kissed again, slower, softer. The villa stood silent around them. The sea glittered. And in the house of thorns, the thorns finally felt like protection, not prison. Chapter 7. The Price of Trust. The days after the attack felt like the calm inside a storm, beautiful, deceptive, and waiting to break again. Celeste and Raffaele moved through the villa with a new awareness of each other. Not the careful distance of the first weeks, but something quieter, more dangerous. The intimacy of people who had fought side by side and lived. They didn't speak about the kiss on the terrace. They didn't need to. It lived in the way he brushed past her in the hallway and let his fingers linger on her wrist for 1 second longer than necessary. In the way she caught herself watching him when he thought she wasn't looking, watching the line of his shoulders, the careful way he moved, like every step was measured against the possibility of violence. They trained together every morning. He taught her disarms, choke counters, how to turn an opponent's momentum against him. She learned fast, too fast sometimes. Once she swept his legs and pinned him to the mat, knee on his chest, forearm across his throat. He looked up at her, breath steady, eyes dark. You're getting good. She leaned down. I have a good teacher. His hands came up, slow, rested on her hips. Not good enough to keep you pinned. She smiled. Maybe I like it here. He flipped them in one smooth motion. Now she was beneath him, wrists caught gently above her head. His voice was low. Maybe I like you here too. They stayed like that, breathing the same air, hearts beating too fast. Then he released her, helped her up, and walked away before either of them could cross the line again. Afternoons belonged to the sea. They swam in the hidden cove, long, slow strokes through turquoise water. He taught her how to dive deeper, how to read currents, how to surface silently. She taught him how to float on his back and stare at the sky until the world disappeared. One day she surfaced beside him, water streaming from her hair. You ever think about leaving? She asked. All the time. She floated closer. And, he looked at the horizon, I think about a house on a different coast, no guards, no guns, just quiet. And you. She turned her head. Me? You. She didn't answer, but she reached under the water, found his hand, laced their fingers. They floated like that until the sun began to drop. Evenings were for strategy. Raffaele monitored encrypted channels. The consortium was fracturing. 2 families had already pulled out after the failed attack. The third, the strongest, was licking its wounds, but not retreating. They'll try again, he said one night over dinner. Smaller, smarter, 1 man, 1 shot. Celeste nodded. Then we make sure they never get close. He looked at her. You're staying? I told you. I'm done running. He reached across the table, took her hand, held it. The gesture was simple. It felt monumental. That night after dinner, they walked the terrace. Stars bright. Sea whispering. She stopped at the railing, turned to him. I want to know something. He waited. Why didn't you ever marry? You're 34, powerful, rich. You could have had anyone. He leaned against the stone beside her. I never wanted anyone. She studied his profile. Until, he turned his head, looked straight at her. Until I found out you were alive. The words landed soft, heavy. She exhaled. That's a dangerous thing to say. I know. She stepped closer, close enough that their arms brushed. I'm not a prize, Raffaele. I know. I'm not something to protect. I know that too. She looked up at him. Then what am I? He reached out, slow, cupped her cheek. You're the only person who's ever made me want to be better than the man who gave the order that night. Her breath caught. He continued, voice low. I can't undo what happened. I can't bring your father or your brother back, but I can make sure the rest of your life isn't lived in fear. And I can make sure you never have to wonder if the person beside you would burn the world to keep you safe. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, she rose on her toes, kissed him, not hungry, not desperate, slow, deliberate, like she was answering every question he'd never asked. He kissed her back, gentle, reverent, hands framing her face. When they separated, she whispered, I'm scared. He rested his forehead against hers. Me too. She smiled, small, real. Good. They kissed again, longer, deeper. But when his hands slid to her waist, she stopped him, pressed her palms to his chest. Not tonight. He nodded. Understood. They walked back inside. He stopped at her door. Good night, Celeste. She touched his face. Good night. She closed the door, leaned against it, heart pounding. The next morning, the final message arrived. A single photo. Celeste, on the terrace 2 days ago, kissing Raffaele, sent from an unknown number, with one line, she dies first, then you watch. Celeste stared at the screen Raffaele showed her, then she looked up. They're here. He nodded. Close. She exhaled. Then let's finish it. They spent the day preparing, traps reset, weapons checked, escape routes mapped, night fell, the villa went dark, they waited. At 3:17 a.m., the first shadow moved across the courtyard. Celeste saw it from the rooftop. She signaled Raffaele. He moved, silent, fast. The intruder never heard him coming. One arm around the throat, down. Quiet. 2 more followed. Raffaele took one. Celeste took the other, knife to the throat, quick disarm, zip ties. They dragged the bodies to the wine cellar. The last man, the leader, was smarter. He waited in the shadows of the east wing. Celeste felt him before she saw him. She turned. Gun up. He fired. Missed. She fired back. Hit his shoulder. He dropped the gun. Raffaele appeared behind him. Pistol to the back of the head. Down. The man knelt. Celeste stepped forward, looked at him. You're the last one. He laughed. Painful, wet. You think this ends with me? Raffaele pressed the muzzle harder. It ends with you. Celeste crouched. Look at me. The man did. She spoke softly. I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to let you live. And every day you breathe, you're going to remember that the girl you were sent to kill is still breathing. And she's not hiding anymore. She stood, looked at Raffaele. Let him go. Raffaele hesitated. Then lowered the gun. The man scrambled up. Ran. They watched him disappear into the night. Celeste turned to Raffaele. You let him go. I trust your judgment. She stepped closer, pressed her forehead to his chest. He wrapped his arms around her, held her tight. The villa was silent. The threat was gone, for good. They went inside, upstairs, to her room. This time she didn't stop him. Clothes came off slowly, hands gentle, kisses reverent. They made love like people who had waited lifetimes, slow, deep, eyes open. When they finished, she curled against him, whispered, I'm staying. He kissed her temple. I know. They fell asleep, tangled together. The sea sang outside. The house of thorns stood quiet. And for the first time, the thorns felt like home. Chapter 8, The Quiet Before. The villa breathed easier after the last attack. No sirens, no shadows at the gate, just the steady rhythm of waves against the cliffs and the slow turning of days into weeks. Celeste and Raffaele settled into something neither of them had expected. A fragile, deliberate peace. Mornings were theirs alone. They woke tangled in the same bed now, his arms around her waist, her back against his chest, the sea light filtering through half-closed shutters. They didn't speak much upon waking, just soft touches. Fingers tracing scars, lips brushing shoulders, quiet affirmations that the night had passed safely. Breakfast became ritual. Coffee on the terrace. Fresh fruit. Bread still warm from the oven, Elena sent down from the village. Raffaele would watch her eat, small, private smiles when she stole the last fig from his plate. You're greedy, he'd say. You're slow, she'd answer. Then she'd lean across the table and kiss the corner of his mouth, quick teasing before he could reply. Afternoons belonged to the studio and the sea. Celeste painted larger now, canvases that filled whole walls. The sea dominated every piece, restless, deep, sometimes violent. But lately, figures had begun appearing in the waves, two silhouettes standing on a cliff, hands almost touching. She never showed him the finished ones, he never asked. Instead, he swam with her in the cove every day. They dove deeper each time, exploring underwater caves, chasing schools of silver fish, holding their breath until lungs burned. Once she surfaced laughing, hair plastered to her face, eyes bright. "You almost drowned me." He pulled her close in the water. "You swim like you were born in it." She wrapped her legs around his waist. "Maybe I was." He kissed her, salt and sunlight, until they both forgot how to breathe. Evenings were slow. They cooked together, simple things. Pasta with anchovies, grilled octopus, salad from the garden Elena still tended. They ate on the terrace most nights, candles flickering, wine poured generously. Conversation flowed easier now. He told her stories of his childhood in Rome, his mother's laugh, his father's cold silences, the day he first held a gun, 9 years old, target practice in the countryside. She told him about the months after the bombing, hospitals, painkillers, learning to walk again with third-degree burns, screaming under bandages, how she'd stolen a nurse's ID to escape the ward and disappear into the night. He listened without pity, just quiet respect. One night after the dishes were cleared, she asked, "Do you ever think about children?" He looked at her over the rim of his glass. "Sometimes." She leaned back, "And I think I'd be terrified of being the kind of father my own was." She reached across the table, took his hand. "You're not him." He turned his palm up, laced their fingers. "I know, but knowing and believing are different things." She squeezed his hand. "You'd be good at it." He smiled, small, uncertain. "Maybe one day." She didn't push, but the words stayed between them. Nights were for closeness. They made love slowly now. Less urgency, more discovery. Hands mapping familiar paths, mouths learning new sounds. He whispered her name like a prayer. She whispered his like a secret. After, they lay tangled, skin cooling, breath sinking. Sometimes she traced the tattoo on his ribs, Latin script, small and faded. "Quod me nutrit me destruit," she read aloud. "What nourishes me destroys me," he nodded. "My father's favorite saying. He had it inked on his arm. I got it after he died, a reminder." She pressed her lips to the ink. "It doesn't have to be true anymore." He pulled her closer. "I'm starting to believe that." The days stretched. No threats came. The consortium had gone quiet, too quiet. Raffaele monitored channels daily. Celeste helped, learning the codes, the names, the patterns. One evening, as the sun set, fire to the sea, his phone chimed. He read the message, frowned, then looked at her. "They're offering a sit-down." She set her wine down. "Who?" "The remaining head of the consortium. Old man, last of the original 3 families. He wants to talk. Neutral ground. Palermo. Tomorrow." Celeste exhaled. "Trap? Possible. But he's old. Tired. He lost 2 sons in the last attack. He may want peace more than revenge." She studied him. "You trust him?" "I trust nothing. But I trust you'll be beside me." She nodded. "Then we go." They left at dawn, drove the winding roads in silence. Raffaele's hand rested on her thigh the entire way. Not possessive, just there. The meeting was set in an old palazzo in Palermo's historic center. Neutral, public, but private enough. They arrived early, checked exits, checked sightlines. When the old man arrived, silver hair, cane, 2 bodyguards, he looked smaller than the legend. He sat across from them, looked at Celeste. "You're the girl." "I'm the woman," she corrected. He nodded once, respectful. Then he looked at Raffaele. "I want this to end. My family is bleeding. Yours is strong. I offer terms." Raffaele listened, no expression. The old man continued. "Peace, no more bounties, no more attempts. In return, we keep the East Coast ports, you keep the rest, and the girl lives." Celeste spoke before Raffaele could. "No." Both men looked at her. She leaned forward. "You don't get to bargain with my life. You tried to take it. You failed. Now you sit here offering scraps like you have leverage. You don't." The old man studied her. Then he smiled, tired, genuine. "You remind me of my wife. She never forgave easily either." Celeste didn't smile back. Raffaele spoke. "The terms are simple. You walk away, completely. No ports, no territory, no grudges. You retire, your family retires, or we continue until there's nothing left to retire to." The old man sighed, long, heavy. Then he nodded. "Done." He extended his hand. Raffaele took it. They shook. The old man looked at Celeste. "You're a lucky man, De Santis." Raffaele looked at her. "I know." They left the palazzo, walked the narrow streets of Palermo. Sun high, crowds moving around them. For the first time in years, no eyes on her back, no waiting for the next shot. They stopped at a small cafe, ordered espresso, sat outside. She reached across the table, took his hand. We did it. He turned her hand over, kissed her palm. We did. They drove back to the villa, slowly, no hurry. When they arrived, the sun was setting. They stood on the terrace, watched the sky turn gold, then pink, then deep violet. She leaned against him. He wrapped his arms around her. She spoke quietly. I want to stay. He kissed her temple. I want you to stay. She turned in his arms, looked up. Then I'm staying. He smiled, full, unguarded. Good. They kissed, slow, deep, certain. The sea sang below. The villa stood quiet. And in the house of thorns, the thorns had become roses. Chapter 9, The Last Shadow. The villa had become a world of its own. Sea, stone, silence, and the two of them moving through it like people who had finally learned how to breathe the same air without choking on the past. 3 weeks had passed since the sit-down in Palermo. The consortium had dissolved. The old man retired to a nursing home in Taormina with a nurse and a view of Mount Etna. The remaining families scattered, some to prison, some to exile, some simply gone quiet. The bounties vanished from the dark channels. The whispers stopped. For the first time in years, Celeste woke up without reaching for the knife under the pillow. Raffaele woke up without checking the perimeter cameras before opening his eyes. They lived. Simply. Deeply. Mornings were lazy now. They stayed in bed longer, talking, touching, laughing at nothing. He would trace the faint, burned scars on her left arm with his fingertips, never asking questions, just mapping them like they were constellations he wanted to memorize. She would press her palm to the center of his chest, feeling the steady beat, reminding herself that this heartbeat existed because he chose to change the story. One morning she woke before him. The sun was barely up. She slipped out of bed, pulled on one of his shirts, too big, sleeves past her hands, and padded to the kitchen. She made coffee. Strong. Black. The way he liked it. When he appeared in the doorway, hair messy, wearing only low-slung sweatpants, she handed him the mug without a word. He took it, took a sip, then pulled her against him. Thank you, she smiled into his chest. You're welcome. They stood like that, coffee cooling, bodies warm, until the sun climbed higher. Afternoons were for the sea and the studio. She painted him now, not hidden, not covered, full portraits. Him standing on the terrace, him swimming, him sleeping. She captured the quiet moments, the ones no one else would ever see. He never interrupted her work, but sometimes he sat on the stool in the corner and watched, silent, still, like he was afraid the spell would break if he moved. One day she finished a piece, him leaning against the railing, looking out at the sea, the wind in his hair. She turned the easel toward him. He stared. Then he crossed the room, looked at the painting, then at her. You see me, he said, voice rough. She nodded. I do. He kissed her then, slow, deep, grateful. When he pulled back, he whispered, I love you. The words landed soft, certain. She smiled against his mouth. I love you too. Evenings were for cooking together. He taught her how to make his mother's lemon risotto. She taught him how to make Nigerian jollof rice, the way her mother never got to show her, but she'd perfected from memory and stubbornness. They ate outside most nights. Candles, wine, stars. One night, after the plates were cleared, she asked, What happens when we have to go back? He looked at her. Do we have to? She shrugged. Milan, the gallery, the life I built. He took her hand. We can build a new one, here or anywhere. The family business runs itself now. I don't need to be in Milan to run it. She studied him. You'd really stay? I'd stay anywhere you are. She leaned forward, kissed him, soft, sweet. Then she whispered, I want both. He raised a brow. Both? Milan for the winters, Sicily for the summers, a life that's ours, not borrowed, not hidden. He smiled, full, unguarded. Then that's what we'll do. They kissed again, longer, deeper. The night stretched around them. Perfect. Until the phone rang. Raffaele's encrypted line. He answered, listened. His face went still. He ended the call, looked at Celeste. There's one last loose end, she straightened. Who? The man who wired the original bomb. The technician. He was supposed to be dead. Turns out he wasn't. He's been in witness protection in France. He's dying now, cancer. He wants to confess, on record, to the authorities. Celeste exhaled, and? He's willing to name everyone involved, including my father, including me by association. She stared. If he talks, the whole story comes out. Public, legal, no more shadows. She looked at him. What do you want to do? Raffaele stood, walked to the railing, looked at the sea. I want it over, all of it. She stood beside him, then let him talk. He turned to her. You'll be dragged into it. The press, the questions, the past. I know. He cupped her face. You're sure? She kissed his palm. I'm sure. They flew to Paris 2 days later. Private jet. No fanfare. The hospital room was small, white, sterile. The man, older now, thin, gray, lay in the bed. He looked at Raffaele, then at Celeste. Then he cried. Quiet. Broken. I'm sorry, he said. I was young. I needed the money. I didn't know it was a family. I thought it was just a car. A message. Celeste stepped forward. I was in that car. He cried harder. I know. I've lived with it every day. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, tell the truth. All of it. Let it end. He nodded. The recorder came out. He confessed. Everything. Names, dates, orders, payments. When it was done, he looked at Celeste. Can you forgive me? She exhaled a spell. I don't know, but I can let you go. She turned, walked out. Raffaele followed. They stood in the hallway. He pulled her into his arms, held her. She didn't cry. She just breathed. The confession was released the next day. Public. Unfiltered. The De Santis name took the hit, but it didn't break. Raffaele stepped down officially, handed control to his cousin, kept only the Sicilian holdings. The press storm lasted 2 weeks. Then it faded. They flew back to Sicily. The villa waited. Quiet, warm, home. They stood on the terrace that night. Sea calm, hum. Stars bright. She leaned against him. He wrapped his arms around her. She spoke softly. It's really over. He kissed her hair. It's really over. She turned in his arms, looked up. I want forever. He smiled. You have it. They kissed. Slow, deep, certain. The villa stood behind them. The sea sang. And in the house of thorns, the thorns had finally bloomed. Chapter 10. The Final Bloom. Winter 2026 wrapped Sicily in a soft, rare chill. The villa stayed warm. Fires in every hearth, thick blankets on every chair, the smell of wood smoke and cinnamon drifting through the halls. Celeste's belly had begun to round, subtle at first, then undeniable. She carried the pregnancy with quiet wonder, hands often resting on the small swell when she thought no one was watching. Raffaele watched her constantly, not possessively, protectively, tenderly. He carried things she didn't ask him to carry, made sure she rested when she tried to work too long, kissed the curve of her stomach every morning and every night like it was a promise he was keeping. The gallery in Cefalù thrived. Celeste curated from home now, selecting pieces via video calls, approving layouts with Elena, who had become more than staff. She was family. The space had grown a reputation, quiet, intimate, a place where art felt alive, not just expensive. One cold December morning, Celeste woke early. The sea outside was restless, gray waves crashing hard against the cliffs. She slipped out of bed, wrapped herself in Raffaele's robe, too big, sleeves swallowing her hands, and went to the studio. She painted. Not the sea this time, not the villa. A child, small, faceless, standing on the terrace with the wind in its hair. Behind the child, 2 figures, one tall, one smaller, hands linked. The colors were soft, gold, pale blue, warm rose. No shadows. She signed it in the corner. CNRN? When Raffaele found her, the canvas was still wet. He stood in the doorway a long time. Then he crossed the room, stood behind her, wrapped his arms around her from behind, careful of the swell between them. He rested his chin on her shoulder, looked at the painting, then whispered, "It's perfect." She leaned back into him. "It's us." He kissed her temple. "It's everything." They stayed like that until the light changed. Afternoons became slower. She tired faster. He carried her books, her brushes, her to the couch when she pretended she wasn't exhausted. One day she found him in the nursery they'd begun converting, an old guest room with sea view, walls freshly painted pale green. He was assembling a crib, shirt sleeves rolled up, hair falling into his eyes, tools scattered around him. She leaned against the door frame, watched. He looked up, caught, smiled, shy, almost boyish. "I thought I'd have it done before you saw." She walked in, touched the wood. "It's beautiful." He stood, wiped his hands on his jeans. "I want it to be right." She took his face in her hands. "It already is." He kissed her, soft, lingering. Then he knelt, pressed his ear to her stomach, listened, smiled when the baby kicked. "Hey, little one," he whispered. "We're waiting for you." Celeste ran her fingers through his hair. Tears slipped down her cheeks, happy ones. They named the child on a quiet evening in February, sitting by the fire, her head in his lap, his hand resting on her belly. If it was a girl, Livia, after his mother's favorite flower, the one that bloomed even in winter. If it was a boy, Matteo, after her brother, Quiet, strong, gone too soon. Either way, the name would carry love. Spring came. The baby arrived on a bright March morning. Labor was long, hard. Raffaele never left her side, holding her hand, wiping her forehead, whispering encouragement in Italian and English and broken Yoruba phrases he'd learned just for her. When Matteo came, dark hair, strong lungs, eyes already searching, he placed him on Celeste's chest. She cried. He cried. They held their son between them. Small, perfect, alive. The villa filled with new sounds. Cries, coos, the soft creak of the rocking chair Raffaele had made himself. Elena came every day, bringing food, advice, love. Friends visited, quietly, carefully. The world outside stayed outside. Inside, they built something unbreakable. Years passed in soft focus. Matteo grew, walking at 10 months, talking at 11, asking questions by 3. Why does Papa have scars? Why does Mama paint blood sometimes? Why do we live by the sea? They answered honestly, age appropriately. When he was old enough, they told him the whole story. Not the violence, but the love that came after. He listened, understood, loved them more for it. Celeste's gallery became legendary, small, exclusive, a place where art healed as much as it sold. Raffaele ran what remained of the family business from afar, clean, legitimate, no blood. They traveled, short trips, always back to Sicily. They swam in the cove, they walked the lemon grove. They loved each other, deeply, fiercely, quietly. One evening in 2040, Matteo 7, the villa lit with lanterns, they stood on the terrace. Celeste leaned against Raffaele. Matteo ran circles around them, laughing. She looked up at her husband, smiled. Thank you for finding me. He kissed her, slow, certain. Thank you for staying. The sea sang, the stars watched, and in the house of thorns that had become a house of velvet, a family bloomed forever. Henry, Ash and Velvet, Chapter 11. Echoes of the past. The summer of 2027 arrived hotter than the last, the Sicilian sun bleaching the stone walls of the villa to an almost blinding white. Matteo was 1 year old now, walking with determined, wobbly steps, babbling half-words in a mix of Italian and the Yoruba lullabies Celeste sang to him at night. His hair was dark and curly like his father's. His eyes were Celeste's storm gray, already too knowing for a baby. The gallery in Cefalù had become a small legend among collectors who valued discretion over flash. Celeste curated remotely most of the time, traveling down once or twice a month with Raffaele and Matteo in tow. Elena ran the day-to-day, still sharp, still fiercely loyal, still crying every time Matteo called her Nonna. Life felt settled, almost too settled. Raffaele noticed it first, a small thing. One of the perimeter cameras glitched for 7 seconds at 3:14 a.m., 3 nights in a row. Not long enough to trigger alarms. Just long enough to make him frown. He didn't mention it to Celeste immediately. He increased patrols, added 2 more motion sensors along the cliff path, checked the encrypted channels every morning. Nothing until the 4th night. The glitch happened again. This time, the camera feed showed something for 2 frames before cutting out. A shadow moving against the olive trees. Human-shaped, too deliberate to be wind or animal. Raffaele woke Celeste at 4:12 a.m. She sat up immediately, instinct still sharp. What is it? He showed her the footage on his tablet. She watched it twice. Then she exhaled slowly. Someone's testing the perimeter. He nodded. Not bold enough to attack yet, just watching. She looked at him in the dim light of the bedroom. How long? Long enough to know our routines. Matteo's naps, your painting hours. When we walk to the cove. Celeste's hand moved automatically to her stomach, old habit from pregnancy, now muscle memory. She stood. I'm not running again. He stood too. Neither am I. They dressed in silence, black clothes, boots, knives, pistols. Raffaele woke Elena quietly. Take Matteo to the safe room. Stay there until I call. Elena didn't ask questions. She just nodded, wrapped the sleeping toddler in a blanket, and disappeared down the hallway. Celeste and Raffaele moved to the rooftop, night vision goggles, sniper rifle, spotter scope. They waited. At 5:38 a.m., just as the sky began to lighten, they saw him, a single figure, black tactical gear, moving along the cliff path, not rushing, not hiding. Confident. Raffaele adjusted the scope. Professional, ex-military, probably hired specialist. Celeste watched through her scope. He's alone. For now. The man stopped at the edge of the grove. Raised binoculars, looked directly toward the villa, toward them. Celeste felt the old cold settle in her chest. Then she saw it. The man lowered the binoculars, raised a hand, a small wave, not threatening, almost greeting. Raffaele's finger hovered over the trigger. "Wait," Celeste said. She lowered her scope, stood, walked to the edge of the rooftop railing, called down in a voice that carried on the morning wind. "Who are you?" The man below didn't answer immediately. Then he pulled off the balaclava, a face she hadn't seen in years. Older, thinner, but unmistakable. Her cousin, Tunde Amato. The one who had helped her disappear after the bombing. The one who had driven her to the safe house in France that first night. The one who had vanished afterward. Rumored dead, rumored hiding, rumored everywhere and nowhere. Tunde looked up at her, raised his voice just enough. "Celeste." Raffaele lowered the rifle, but didn't relax. Celeste leaned over the railing. "What are you doing here?" Tunde spread his hands. "I came to see if the rumors were true, that you're alive, that you're happy." She stared. "How did you find me?" "I never stopped looking. I just stopped telling anyone I was." Silence stretched between them, across the courtyard, across the years. Then Tunde said, "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to warn you." Raffaele stepped forward. "Warn her about what?" Tunde looked at him, measured, no fear. "Someone bought your old file, the original Amato hit order, the technician's confession, everything. They're shopping it to the highest bidder, not for revenge, for blackmail." Celeste felt the ground shift under her. "Who?" Tunde shook his head. "I don't know yet. But they know where you are. They know about the baby. They know about him." He nodded toward Raffaele. Raffaele's jaw tightened. "Then why are you here? Why not just send an email?" Tunde smiled, tired, sad. "Because I wanted to see her face when I told her, because I owed her that much, and because I wanted to meet my nephew." Celeste's throat closed. She looked at Raffaele. He met her eyes, nodded once. She called down, "Come inside." Tunde walked up the path. No weapons visible, hands open. Raffaele met him at the gate, frisked him, found nothing, then let him in. They sat in the courtyard, Matteo still asleep in the safe room with Elena. Celeste sat across from her cousin. Raffaele stood behind her, close, protective. Tunde looked at her, really looked. "You look good, Celeste, happy," she nodded. "I am." He smiled, small, genuine. "Good." Then the smile faded. "But someone wants to take it away." He pulled a USB drive from his pocket, handed it to Raffaele. "Everything I've tracked, names, transfers, dates. It's not much, but it's a start." Raffaele took it, looked at Celeste. She nodded. He plugged it into a secure tablet. Files opened, bank transfers, encrypted emails. A name circled in red, Lorenzo Bellini, a mid-level financier from Rome. Old money, older grudges. A man who had lost territory to the De Santis family years ago, and now he had the full Amato file. And a plan. Celeste looked at Tunde. "Why help now?" Tunde exhaled. "Because I failed you once. I left you alone after the bombing. I thought disappearing was safer for both of us. I was wrong. I've spent years regretting it. When I heard you were alive, I had to make it right." She studied him. Then she stood, walked to him, hugged him, tight, sudden. He hugged her back, hard. When they separated, she said, "You're staying until this is done." Tunde looked at Raffaele. Raffaele nodded once. "Stay." Tunde exhaled. "Thank you." The next weeks were tense. Tunde moved into the guest wing. He worked with Raffaele, tracking, hacking, planning. Celeste kept the gallery running, kept Matteo safe, kept painting. One night, after Matteo was asleep, the three of them sat in the office. Tunde looked up from the screen. "They're moving. 2 weeks. They're sending a team. Small, elite. They want you both alive, for leverage." Celeste asked, "How many?" 6. Raffaele closed the laptop. "Then we meet them first." Celeste looked between them. "No more waiting." Tunde nodded. "No more waiting." They planned. Carefully. Ruthlessly. The trap would be set in the lemon grove, the place where everything had started to feel like home. 2 weeks later. The night was moonless. The grove smelled of citrus and earth. Celeste waited on the ridge above, sniper rifle steady. Raffaele and Tunde waited below, shadows among shadows. The team came at 2:43 a.m., 6 men. Silent, professional. They moved toward the villa. Raffaele's voice in her earpiece, "Now." Celeste fired first, 1 down. Then Raffaele and Tunde moved, fast, precise. Gunfire cracked, short, controlled bursts. 2 more down. The remaining 3 scattered. Celeste took another. Raffaele took the 4th. Tunde took the 5th. The last man ran. Celeste tracked him. Didn't fire. Let him go. A message. They gathered the bodies. No survivors this time. No mercy. Cleanup crew arrived at dawn. By noon, the grove was quiet again. Celeste stood under the lemon tree. Raffaele beside her, Tunde a few steps back. She looked at her cousin. "You're staying." Tunde smiled. "If you'll have me." She hugged him again. "We will." Raffaele extended a hand. Tunde took it. They shook. Family. Real family. That night, Celeste and Raffaele sat on the terrace. Matteo asleep upstairs. Stars above. She leaned against him. He wrapped an arm around her. She spoke softly. "It's done." He kissed her hair. "It's done." She looked up. "I want another one." He smiled. "Another?" She nodded. "A girl this time." He kissed her. Slow, deep. "Then we'll make one." They went inside, upstairs, to their room. They made love, gentle, certain, full of tomorrow. After, she curled against him, whispered, "Thank you for giving me a future." He held her tighter. "Thank you for giving me one too." The villa slept around them. The sea sang. And in the house that had once been thorns, only velvet remained. Chapter 12. The Silent Storm. The long Sicilian summer of 2027 faded into an autumn that felt too gentle, too forgiving. The villa glowed with the soft amber light of October afternoons, the lemon grove heavy with fruit, the sea calmer than it had any right to be after everything that had come before. Matteo was 15 months old now, stubborn, curious, already trying to climb anything that stood still long enough. He had Raffaele's dark curls and Celeste's sharp gray eyes, and a laugh that made both parents stop whatever they were doing just to hear it again. The gallery in Cefalù had become a small institution. Local artists waited months for a spot on the walls. Collectors flew in from London and Dubai for private viewings. Elena ran it with the precision of a general and the warmth of a grandmother. Life felt almost too peaceful, which is why when the first real warning came, it landed like a stone in still water. It arrived on a Tuesday morning, a plain envelope, hand-delivered to the gallery addressed to Celeste Amato De Santis. Elena brought it to the villa herself. She handed it to Celeste with a look that said she already knew it wasn't good. Inside, a single photograph, taken from a distance. Celeste and Matteo on the terrace 2 days earlier, her holding him on her hip, both of them laughing at something off-frame. Behind them, Raffaele leaning against the railing, watching them with that quiet, unguarded smile he saved only for his family. The photo was crisp, professional. Someone had been close enough to use a telephoto lens. No note, no threat, just the image. Celeste stared at it for a long time. Then she handed it to Raffaele. He looked. His face went still, dangerously still. Tunde was in the kitchen when they walked in. He took one look at their expressions, took the photo. His jaw tightened. "This wasn't one of mine," he said immediately. Raffaele nodded. "I know." Celeste spoke, voice calm but edged. "They're not coming for blood this time. They're coming for fear." Raffaele looked at her. "Then we give them something else." They spent the afternoon in the office. Tunde pulled up every camera feed from the last week, cross-referenced angles, found the blind spot. A small hill across the cove, public land but high enough for a clear shot. Someone had been there, multiple times. Raffaele looked at Celeste. "We need to know who." She nodded. "I'll go." He started to protest. She cut him off. "You're too recognizable. Tunde's face is on too many old files. I'm the one they want to see scared. Let me be the bait." Raffaele's hands clenched. Celeste stepped closer, put her hand on his chest. "I'm not going alone, you'll be watching. Tunde too. Matteo stays here with Elena." He searched her face, then he exhaled. "Okay, but you wear the vest, and you don't take unnecessary risks." She smiled, small, sharp. "I'm not the one who takes risks anymore. That's your job." He kissed her, hard, quick, possessive. Then, "Be careful." She kissed him back. "I always am." The next morning, Celeste walked the cliff path alone, no gun visible. No backup in sight, but she knew Raffaele was on the rooftop with the sniper rifle. Tunde was in the olive grove with a drone. She carried a small backpack, sketchbook, pencils, water bottle. She looked like any artist going for inspiration. She sat on the low stone wall overlooking the cove, opened the sketchbook, began to draw the villa, the sea, the lemon trees. She waited. At 11:47 a.m., she felt it. The prickle at the back of her neck. Someone watching. She didn't look up, just kept sketching. Then she spoke, loud enough to carry on the wind. "I know you're there." Silence. Then footsteps. A man stepped out from behind the olive trees. Mid-40s. Lean, gray at the temples. Expensive suit under a lightweight coat. He stopped 10 meters away. Hands visible. No weapon. Celeste closed the sketchbook. Stood. "You're Lorenzo Bellini." He inclined his head. "Signora De Santis." She tilted her head. You're late. The others came weeks ago. Bellini smiled, thin, practiced. I'm not like the others. I don't send mercenaries. I come myself. She crossed her arms. You want money? Territory? Revenge? Bellini took one step closer. I want justice. She raised an eyebrow. For what? For what your husband did to my family 15 years ago. He took the East Coast ports. He ruined my father. He left us with nothing. Celeste studied him. Your father was the one who ordered the bomb on my family. You're angry because you lost? Or because you were on the losing side? Bellini's smile faded. I was a boy then. I watched my father destroy himself after that night. I watched him drink himself to death. I watched my mother leave. I watched everything fall apart. And the man who caused it, he got to build a new life with you. Celeste's voice stayed even. He didn't cause it. His father did. And Raffaele ended that too. He killed the men who wired the car. He stepped away from the life. He's not the same man. Bellini's eyes darkened. He's still breathing. My father isn't. She stepped closer. Now only 5 meters separated them. You think taking my family will balance the scales? Bellini looked at her, really looked. I think taking your happiness will. Celeste smiled, cold, dangerous. You're too late for that. She lifted her shirt just enough to show the vest, then the pistol at her hip. Then she looked up at the rooftop. Raffaele stood there, rifle aimed, steady. Bellini followed her gaze, saw. His shoulders sagged just slightly. Celeste spoke quietly. You have one chance. Walk away, go back to Rome, live whatever life you have left, or stay here and die today. Bellini looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded, once, turned, walked back down the path. Celeste watched until he disappeared. Then she turned, looked up at Raffaele. He lowered the rifle, gave her a small nod. She walked back to the villa. Tunde met her at the gate. You okay? She nodded. It's done. He exhaled. Good. Inside, Raffaele waited. He pulled her into his arms the second she crossed the threshold, held her tight, kissed her hair. You scared me. She smiled against his chest. I know. They stood there, breathing, alive. Matteo's laughter drifted from upstairs, Elena playing with him. Celeste pulled back, looked up. It's really over now. Raffaele cupped her face. It's really over. They kissed, slow, deep, certain. Then he took her hand, led her upstairs, to their son, to their home, to the life they had fought for, and won. Chapter 13. The Weight of Tomorrow. Winter 2028 settled over Sicily like a soft blanket. Cool nights, crisp mornings, the kind of weather that made the villa feel even more like a fortress of warmth. Matteo was 2.5 now, endless energy, endless questions, endless small hands reaching for everything. He spoke in full sentences, mixed Italian and English with a few Yoruba words Celeste had taught him. He called Raffaele Papa. With the same fierce affection, he called Celeste Mama. He painted with her in the studio, tiny fingers smearing crimson across paper, laughing when the colors mixed into mud. Celeste's second pregnancy was showing now, 6 months along, a girl this time. She moved slower, rested more, but refused to stop working. The gallery had expanded, 2 new rooms, a small cafe corner where locals came for coffee and conversation. She curated from home mostly, video calls with Elena, who ran the front lines like a general. Raffaele had become a different man in quiet ways. He still checked the perimeter cameras every morning, habit too deep to break, but he no longer carried a gun in the house. He spent mornings with Matteo, teaching him how to kick a ball against the courtyard wall, how to climb the low lemon trees without falling. He spent afternoons with Celeste, hands on her belly, feeling the baby kick, whispering names to her stomach until they both laughed. Life felt solid, real, almost ordinary, until the morning the letter arrived. Hand-delivered again, same plain envelope, same red wax seal. Elena brought it herself, face pale. Celeste opened it at the kitchen table. Inside, a single sheet, typed. Congratulations on the second child. A girl this time. Beautiful family, beautiful life. But old debts have long memories. The technician's confession was only the beginning. There are tapes, more tapes, your husband's voice on them, clear, undeniable. He gave the final approval for the hit, not his father, him. We have proof. We will release it unless you meet our terms. 10 million euros. 1 week, or the world sees the truth, and your children grow up knowing their father is a murderer. Celeste read it twice. Then she folded it carefully. Looked at Raffaele. He was already standing behind her, reading over her shoulder. His face had gone white. Then gray. Then nothing. Celeste stood, turned to him. Is it true? Raffaele looked at her, eyes raw, haunted. He didn't lie. I was in the room when the order was given. My father looked at me, asked if I had anything to add. I said, make it clean. I didn't know the target was your entire family. I thought it was a car, a warning. I found out the truth after. I killed the men who did it, but the words, they were mine. Silence, thick, heavy, suffocating. Celeste stared at him, then she walked past him, upstairs to the nursery. Matteo was napping. She stood over the crib, watched him sleep. Raffaele followed, stood in the doorway, didn't enter. She spoke without turning. You lied. I omitted. Same thing. He exhaled, shaky. I was ashamed. I still am. I thought if you knew, you'd leave, and I couldn't survive that. She turned, eyes wet but steady. You think I would leave because of words you said when you were 31? Before you knew me? Before you changed? He looked down. I didn't want you to look at me the way you're looking now. She crossed the room, stood in front of him, cupped his face, forced him to meet her eyes. I'm looking at you the way I've always looked at you, like a man who made mistakes, like a man who paid for them, like a man who chose me every day since, like the father of my children. Tears slipped down his cheeks. Silent, she wiped them away. We pay the money, we get the tapes, we burn them together, and we move on. He shook his head. They'll keep coming. Blackmail never ends. Then we end them. He stared. She continued. We find who has the tapes. We take them. We destroy them. And if they resist, we do what we do. Raffaele searched her face. You do that? After everything? For our family? Yes. He pulled her close, held her tight. I love you. She held him back. He stood, I love you too. They spent the next days planning. Tunde worked the dark channels. Elena watched Matteo. Celeste painted, violent strokes at first, then calmer ones. Raffaele made calls, quiet ones. Old contacts, old debts. They traced the blackmailer. A lawyer in Rome, discreet, expensive, working for a silent partner. They flew to Rome, private jet, no fanfare. They met the lawyer in a small office near the Pantheon. Celeste sat across from him. Raffaele stood behind her. The lawyer smiled, thin, oily. You brought the money? Celeste placed a briefcase on the desk, opened it, stacks of euros. Then she closed it. Show us the tapes. The lawyer hesitated, then opened a safe, pulled out a small box. Inside, USB drives, old cassettes, photos. Celeste looked at them, then at him. You know what happens if these get out? The lawyer nodded. That's why you're paying. Raffaele spoke, low, lethal. We're not paying. The lawyer's smile faltered. Celeste leaned forward. We're taking. She stood. Raffaele moved, fast. The lawyer reached for a drawer. Celeste's knife was at his throat before he could blink. Hands on the desk. He froze. Raffaele took the box, looked inside, then looked at the lawyer. You made copies? The lawyer swallowed. 2, in safe deposit boxes, different banks. Celeste pressed the knife closer. Give us the keys, the locations, the codes. The lawyer did, hands shaking. They took everything. Left him alive, with a warning. If any copy surfaces, we come back, and next time, no conversation. They flew back to Sicily, burned the originals in the Lemon Grove fire pit, watched them turn to ash. Then they went to the banks, retrieved the copies, burned those too. When the last flame died, Celeste looked at Raffaele. It's over. He pulled her into his arms. It's over. They went home, to Matteo, to the villa, to the life they had fought for. And this time, they believed it. Chapter 14, The Unwritten Page. The winter of 2028 passed quietly in Sicily, the villa wrapped in a rare layer of frost that made the lemon trees look like they were dusted with sugar. Matteo was 3 now, loud, fearless, always running ahead on the cliff path with a stick he called his sword, pretending to fight dragons only he could see. The baby girl arrived in early March, Livia, small and fierce, with Celeste's eyes and Raffaele's dark hair. She cried less than Matteo ever had, but when she did, it was sharp and demanding, like she already knew the world owed her something. Celeste healed quickly. She was back in the studio within weeks, painting slower, softer pieces now. Portraits of Matteo, laughing, Livia sleeping, Raffaele holding both children on the terrace at sunset. The gallery in Cefalù had become a pilgrimage site for young artists from across southern Italy. Elena hired 2 assistants. The cafe corner expanded into a small bookshop. Celeste curated twice a year, once in spring, once in fall, always with a theme that felt personal, light after shadow, roots in stone, the sea remembers. Raffaele had fully stepped away from the old life. The family business ran on autopilot, legitimate shipping contracts, real estate, quiet investments. His cousin handled the rest. He spent his days with the children, teaching Matteo how to swim, rocking Livia to sleep, building forts out of blankets in the courtyard. But peace, like everything else, has cracks. The first crack appeared in late April. A small article in a Milan newspaper, buried on page 12. De Santis family linked to unsolved 2022 art theft ring. No names. No direct accusations, just old rumors resurfacing. Whispers that the De Santis name had once been tied to stolen paintings, pieces that had passed through private hands before vanishing again. Celeste read it on her phone while nursing Livia. She showed Raffaele without a word. He read it, then closed the screen. Old news, he said. People talk, it dies down. She looked at him. But it didn't die down last time, he exhaled. I'll make calls. He did. Quiet ones. To old contacts, to lawyers, to the journalist who wrote the piece. The calls came back the same. No source named, no evidence, just reliable whispers. Celeste didn't panic. She planned. She hired a private investigator, someone Raffaele trusted, someone outside the family circle. The investigator worked fast. 2 weeks later, he met them in Palermo, neutral ground, small cafe near the harbor. He slid a folder across the table. Someone's stirring the pot, not the old consortium. New player, young, ambitious. Name's Marco Vitale, 28, son of a former De Santis capo who lost everything when Raffaele took over. He's been buying old files, old grudges, old debts. He's not after money, he's after reputation. He wants to ruin the De Santis name publicly. Make it impossible for you to live quietly. Celeste opened the folder. Photos, bank records, emails. Marco Vitale, handsome, sharp-eyed, smiling in every picture like he knew something no one else did. Raffaele looked at the photos, then at Celeste. He's in Rome, Celeste nodded. Then we go to Rome. They flew out the next day. Matteo and Livia stayed with Elena, safe, guarded, loved. Rome was loud, crowded, full of ghosts. They met Marco Vitale in a small restaurant near the Spanish Steps. Private room, no windows, one door. He waited for them at the table, smiling, confident. Celeste sat across from him. Raffaele stood. Marco looked at her. You're prettier in person. Celeste ignored the compliment. You have something you think gives you power. Marco's smile widened. I have everything. The files, the tapes, the proof. Your husband approved the hit on your family. The world will love that story. The fallen Mafia prince, the woman who married her family's killer. The children caught in the middle. Celeste leaned forward. You're wrong on one thing. Marco raised a brow. She continued, I already know. He told me. I stayed. I married him. I had his children. Your story isn't scandal. It's old news. And old news doesn't sell. Marco's smile faltered. Celeste slid a folder across the table. Inside, photos of him, meetings with known informants, bank transfers from offshore accounts, proof he'd been buying silence from old De Santis men. Celeste spoke softly. You release anything on us, we release everything on you. You'll be the one ruined, not us. Marco stared at the folder, then at her, then at Raffaele. Raffaele spoke, low, final, walk away, live or don't. Marco swallowed, closed the folder, stood, left. No words, no threats, just gone. Celeste and Raffaele walked out into the Roman night, hand in hand. The city moved around them, loud, alive. They flew home back to Sicily, back to Matteo and Livia, back to the villa, back to the life they had chosen. That night, after the children were asleep, they stood on the terrace, sea calm, stars bright. Celeste leaned against him. He wrapped his arms around her. She spoke quietly. We keep winning. He kissed her hair. We keep choosing. She turned in his arms, looked up. I love you. He smiled. Full, real. I love you too. They kissed, slow, deep, forever. The villa stood behind them. The sea sang below. And in the house that had once been thorns and then velvet, now it was simply home. Chapter 15, The Unseen Hand. The year 2029 dawned with a deceptive gentleness in Sicily. The villa stood as it always had, stone walls warmed by winter sun, the lemon grove heavy with the promise of spring fruit, the sea a steady, endless companion. Matteo was 4 now, tall for his age, quick with questions, already sketching crude boats on scrap paper and declaring he would sail farther than Papa ever did. Livia, 1.5, was quieter, watching everything with wide, serious eyes, toddling after her brother with determined little steps, clutching a small stuffed lemon Celeste had sewn for her. Celeste's paintings had evolved again. The canvases were larger, the colors softer, gold mornings, rose dusks, figures that felt more like memories than shadows. She exhibited twice a year now, always in Cefalù, always with a quiet crowd that respected the space she'd carved out. The gallery had become a small sanctuary. People came not just for art, but for the feeling of stepping out of the world for an hour. Raffaele had become the father he once feared he could never be. He woke early to make breakfast, pancakes for Matteo, soft porridge for Livia. He read stories at night, voices deep and theatrical, making the children laugh until they begged for one more. He held Celeste when the old nightmares crept in, whispering that the past was ash, that they had burned it together, but ash has a way of drifting on the wind. The first sign came in mid-February. A small package arrived at the gallery, addressed to Celeste, no return sender. Elena opened it carefully. Inside, a single photograph, the villa courtyard, taken from above, drone height. Matteo and Livia playing on the terrace, Celeste watching them from the doorway. Raffaele in the background, arms crossed, looking at his family with that quiet, unguarded love. The photo was time-stamped 2 weeks earlier. No note, no demand, just the image. Elena brought it to the villa herself. Celeste stared at it for a long time. Then she handed it to Raffaele. He looked. His face went hard, jaw tight, eyes cold in a way she hadn't seen in years. Tunde was in the kitchen when they walked in. He took one look, took the photo. His expression darkened. This isn't Bellini. He's gone quiet. This is someone new. Celeste spoke, voice steady. They're not threatening yet. They're showing us they can reach us. Raffaele nodded. Then we show them we can reach back. They spent the afternoon in the office. Tunde pulled footage from every camera. Found the drone, small, commercial grade, launched from a boat half a kilometer offshore. The boat was registered to a shell company in Malta. The shell company led to a man in Naples, Giovanni Gio Moretti, 32, former low-level enforcer for the old consortium. Disappeared after the last failed attack. Resurfaced last year, quiet, wealthy connected. Tunde looked up from the screen. He's not after money, he's after control. He wants the De Santis name. He wants the legacy. He wants to be the one who finally ends it. Celeste looked at the photo again, then at her children's faces in it. She spoke quietly. He doesn't get to touch them. Raffaele stood. We end this before he tries. They planned. No rush, no panic, just precision. Tunde flew to Naples, gathered intel, Raffaele made calls, Celeste stayed with the children, normal days, normal nights. But she slept with the knife under the pillow again. One evening in late March, Tunde returned. He sat with them on the terrace. Matteo and Livia asleep inside. Elena watching them. Tunde slid a file across the table. Gio's in Naples. Small villa. Heavy security. 6 men. He's waiting for a response. He thinks we'll negotiate. Celeste looked at the file. Photos. Blueprints. Schedules. She closed it. We don't negotiate. Raffaele nodded. We go in. We take everything. We end him. Celeste looked at him. I'm coming. He started to argue. She cut him off. I'm not asking. This is my family too. He searched her face. Then he nodded. Together. They left 3 days later. Elena stayed with the children. Tunde came with them. They flew to Naples, moved quietly, found Gio's villa, walled, guarded, lights on every corner. They watched for 2 nights. Learned the patterns. The 3rd night, they moved. Raffaele led, Celeste beside him, Tunde covering the rear. They slipped in through a service tunnel, old, forgotten, silent, fast. They took the guards one by one, no shots, no alarms, just shadows. Gio was in his study, alone, working. They walked in. He looked up, saw Raffaele, saw Celeste, saw Tunde. He smiled, slow, bitter. You came, Raffaele spoke. You threatened my family. Gio leaned back. I threatened your past. You're living on borrowed time. I just wanted to remind you. Celeste stepped forward. You don't remind us. You don't touch us. You don't speak our names. Gio laughed. You think this ends with me? There are always more. Celeste looked at him, then at Raffaele. She spoke softly. Let him live. Raffaele looked at her. She continued. Let him live knowing he failed, knowing we're still here, knowing our children will grow up safe. That's worse than death. Gio's smile faded. Raffaele looked at him one last time, then he turned. They walked out, left Gio alone, with the truth. They flew home, back to the villa, back to Matteo and Livia, back to the life they had built. Celeste stood on the terrace that night, Raffaele beside her. The sea calm, stars bright. She leaned against him. He wrapped his arms around her. She whispered, we keep winning. He kissed her hair, because we keep choosing. They stood there, together, forever. The villa slept around them. The sea sang. And in the house that had once been thorns, then velvet, then home, only love remained. Chapter 16, The Unfinished Song. The spring of 2029 bloomed late in Sicily, as if the island itself had decided to make the world wait a little longer. The lemon grove filled with white blossoms, the air thick with their scent, and the villa felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for something beautiful, or something terrible, or perhaps both at once. Matteo was 4.5, tall and fearless, always trailing after his father with a wooden sword he'd carved himself from an olive branch. Livia, just past 2, was quieter but no less determined, following her brother everywhere, clutching her stuffed lemon, repeating, "Maddie, wait," in a voice that made Celeste's heart squeeze every time. Celeste's paintings had taken on a new depth. The canvases were no longer just about the sea or the family. They were about time, layers upon layers, shadows bleeding into light, figures half-formed, half-remembered, always moving forward. She exhibited once that year a small show in Cefalù titled After the Storm. The reviews were quiet, reverent, collectors bought everything. But Celeste kept one piece for herself, a triptych, 3 panels. The first, a burning car on a highway. The second, 2 shadows standing in flames, hands reaching. The third, a family on a terrace, the sea behind them, the sun rising. She hung it in their bedroom. Raffaele saw it one morning. He stood in front of it for a long time. Then he turned to her. "You painted the beginning." So she nodded. "And the end." He crossed the room, pulled her into his arms. "Thank you for showing me the middle." She kissed him, slow, certain. "The middle is my favorite part." The days passed in gentle routine. Mornings, coffee, children, chaos. Matteo demanding, "Papa, fight me," with his sword. Livia climbing into Celeste's lap, demanding, "Mama, paint me." Afternoons, the gallery, the studio, the sea. Evenings, dinner on the terrace, stories, baths, bedtime. Nights, them. They made love like people who had learned to trust silence as much as words, slow, deep, unhurried. Sometimes laughing, sometimes whispering old fears, sometimes just holding each other, listening to the sea. But even peace has echoes. The first echo came in late May. A phone call. Raffaele's old line, the one he never answered anymore. He stared at the screen, then he answered. Celeste watched from the doorway. His face went still. He listened. Then he said one word. "No." He ended the call. Looked at her. Gio Moretti's brother, younger. He found the old files. He's not after money, he's after blood. He says he'll start with the children. Celeste felt the world tilt. Then steady. She walked to him, took the phone, looked at the number. Then she spoke. "We end this." Raffaele looked at her. "You're sure?" She nodded. "For our family? Always." They planned, quietly, carefully. Tunde flew in from Rome. Elena took the children to the safe house in Palermo, guarded, hidden, loved. Celeste and Raffaele flew to Rome. Again, this time no meeting, no negotiation. They found Gio Moretti's brother Antonio living in a small apartment near the Tiber. They waited. Night fell. They moved, silent, fast. They slipped in through the balcony. Just like Antonio was asleep. Raffaele woke him with a hand over his mouth. Celeste stood beside the bed. Pistols steady. Antonio's eyes widened. Raffaele spoke, low, lethal. "You threatened my children." Antonio shook his head, frantic. "I didn't. I swear I just wanted." Celeste stepped forward. "You wanted what your brother wanted. Revenge, legacy, power. You don't get any of it." She looked at Raffaele. He looked at her. She nodded. Raffaele released Antonio, stepped back. Celeste spoke. "You live. You disappear. You never say our names again. You never look for us again, or we find you. And next time, no conversation." Antonio nodded, tears streaming. They left. No blood, no bodies, just silence. They flew home, back to Sicily, back to Matteo and Livia. Elena met them at the door, children asleep. Celeste and Raffaele went upstairs, checked on them. Matteo curled around his sword, Livia clutching her lemon. They stood in the doorway, watching, breathing, alive. Celeste leaned against Raffaele. He wrapped his arms around her. She whispered, "It's done." He kissed her hair. "It's done." They went to their room, closed the door, made love, slow, grateful, certain. After she curled against him, traced the ring on his finger, whispered, "I want to grow old with you." He smiled into her hair. "We will." The villa slept around them, the sea sang, and in the house that had once been thorns, then velvet, then home, now it was simply theirs. Forever. Chapter 17, The Uninvited Guest. The summer of 2029 arrived with a vengeance in Sicily, heat that pressed against the skin, air thick with the scent of sun-baked stone and ripening figs. The villa shimmered in the midday light, the sea below a flat, molten blue. Matteo was 5 now, tall, brown as earth, always running barefoot across the terrace, sword in hand, declaring war on invisible enemies. Livia, 3, had grown into a tiny storm. Curly hair wild, voice loud, always trailing her brother but insisting she was the boss. Celeste painted in bursts now, early mornings before the heat became unbearable, late evenings when the children were finally asleep. Her work had taken on a new urgency. Portraits of the children in motion, the villa at golden hour, Raffaele laughing with Matteo on his shoulders. She exhibited once that year a quiet show in Cefalù called Roots and Wings. The reviews called it tenderly fierce. The paintings sold before the opening night even ended. Raffaele had become the steady center of their world. He woke before dawn to swim, long, powerful strokes through the cove, coming back wet and grinning. He made breakfast every day, pancakes for Matteo, fruit and yogurt for Livia, coffee for Celeste. He read to them at night, old Sicilian folk tales mixed with Nigerian stories Celeste remembered from her mother. Life felt full, almost too full to hold anything else. Until the morning the stranger arrived. He came on foot, walking the private lane from the main road, no car, no escort. A man in his late 30s, lean, sun-darkened, wearing a simple linen shirt and trousers, a small canvas bag over one shoulder. Elena met him at the gate. She didn't open it. She called Raffaele. Raffaele went down alone. Celeste watched from the terrace, Matteo and Livia playing inside, safe. The man stood on the other side of the iron bars. Raffaele stopped 5 meters away. "Who are you?" The man looked up. His face was familiar, older, lined, but unmistakable. "Luca Amato," he said. "Celeste's cousin, Tunde's younger brother." Raffaele's hand moved to the pistol at his waist. Luca raised both hands, slow, empty. "I'm not armed. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to see my sister." Raffaele studied him. "How did you find us?" Luca smiled, tired, genuine. "I never stopped looking. Tunde told me where to start. I followed the trail, quietly." Celeste appeared at the top of the steps. Matteo and Livia behind her, curious. She walked down, stopped beside Raffaele, looked at Luca. He stared at her, then at the children, then back at her. Tears filled his eyes. "You're alive," he whispered. Celeste's voice was steady. "I'm alive." Luca swallowed. "I thought you were gone for years. I thought we'd lost you forever." Celeste stepped closer to the gate. "You disappeared too." Luca nodded. "I had to. After the bombing, the family fell apart. I went underground. Tunde told me you survived. He made me promise not to look. Said it was safer. I kept the promise, until now." Celeste looked at him. Really looked. "You're not here for revenge." Luca shook his head. "I'm here for family. I heard about the children. I heard about the life you built. I wanted to see it. I wanted to be part of it, if you'll let me." Raffaele spoke. Low, careful. "You understand what you're asking." Luca met his eyes. "I do. I know who you are. I know what you were. I know what you've become. I'm not asking to be part of the past. I'm asking to be part of the future." Silence. Then Celeste looked at Raffaele. He looked back. She nodded. Once. Raffaele opened the gate. Luca stepped through. Celeste walked forward, hugged him, tight, sudden, fierce. He hugged her back, hard. When they separated, tears on both faces, she turned. "Matteo, Livia, come meet your Uncle Luca." The children came forward, hesitant at first, then curious. Matteo stared up at Luca. "Are you really Mama's brother?" Luca knelt. "I am." Matteo looked at Raffaele. "Is he good?" Raffaele smiled, small, real. "He's family." Matteo nodded. Then he held out his wooden sword. "Want to fight dragons?" Luca laughed, soft, surprised. "I'd love to." The rest of the day passed in cautious joy. Luca stayed for dinner. He told stories of their childhood, of their parents he'd spent hiding, working odd jobs, always searching for news of Celeste. He cried when Matteo climbed into his lap. He cried harder when Livia offered him her stuffed lemon. Celeste watched. Raffaele watched. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. That night, after the children were asleep, Luca stood on the terrace with them. The sea was calm, stars bright. He looked at Celeste. "I never thought I'd see this." She smiled. "I never thought I'd live to have it." Luca looked at Raffaele. "Thank you for keeping her safe, for giving her this." Raffaele inclined his head. "She kept herself safe. I just stood beside her." Luca nodded. "I'd like to stay. Not forever, but for a while, to be part of this, if you'll have me." Celeste looked at Raffaele. He nodded. "You're welcome here." Luca exhaled. Relief, gratitude, love. "Thank you." They stood there. 3 people who had lost everything once. Now they had everything. The villa slept behind them. The sea sang. And in the house that had once been thorns, then velvet, then home, Now it was family, complete. Chapter 18, The Unwritten Legacy. The summer of 2030 burned bright and unrelenting across Sicily. The villa's stone walls absorbed the heat like old bones soaking up sun, the lemon grove heavy with fruit that dropped with soft thuds on the dry earth. Matteo was 6 now, tall, skinny, always moving, always asking why about everything from the stars to why Papa sometimes stared at the sea like it owed him an answer. Livia, 4, had become a force of nature, wild curls, louder laugh than her brother, already painting with Celeste, smearing colors across paper, and declaring every mess a masterpiece. Celeste's gallery in Cefalù had grown roots. It wasn't just a space for art anymore. It was a small community. Local children came after school for free lessons. Elderly women from the village brought homemade limoncello and gossip. Collectors from Milan, Paris, even New York flew in quietly, buying pieces they couldn't find anywhere else, paintings that felt like they carried the island's heartbeat. Raffaele had become the quiet anchor of it all. He still swam every morning, long strokes through the cove, coming back dripping and calm. He taught Matteo how to fish with a hand line, how to read the wind, how to respect the sea. He taught Livia how to climb the low branches of the lemon trees without falling, how to laugh when she did. The family had grown in small, unspoken ways too. Tunde had stayed. He lived in the guest wing, helped with the children, helped with the gallery, helped with everything. He was Uncle Tunde now, loud, warm, always ready with a story or a game or a hug. Life felt complete, until the letter arrived. It came in August, plain envelope, no stamp, hand-delivered to the gallery by a boy who ran away before Elena could ask questions. Celeste opened it in the studio. Inside, a single page, handwritten, familiar handwriting, her father's. Celeste, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. But I left something behind, a letter, a confession. Your mother and I knew the risks. We knew the De Santis family would come one day. We chose to fight anyway. Your brother chose too. I want you to know we never blamed you for surviving. We were proud. The confession is with a lawyer in Lagos. He has instructions. When you're ready, read it. It will explain everything, including why we never told you the full truth about Raffaele's family. We loved you, always. Your father. Celeste stared at the page, the ink blurred. She folded it carefully, walked to the terrace. Raffaele was there, playing with the children, Livia on his shoulders, Matteo swinging a wooden sword. He saw her face, knew. He set Livia down gently, told the children to play inside with Elena. Then he walked to Celeste. She handed him the letter. He read it, twice. Then he pulled her into his arms, held her while she cried, quiet, deep sobs she hadn't allowed herself in years. When she finished, she looked up. I need to go to Lagos. He nodded. We'll go together. They flew out 3 days later. Matteo and Livia stayed with Elena and Tunde, safe, loved. Lagos was loud, hot, chaotic. The lawyer's office was small, old building in Ikoyi, ceiling fan turning lazily, papers stacked everywhere. The lawyer was older, white hair while kind eyes. He recognized Celeste immediately. Your father was a good man, he said. He handed her a sealed envelope. Inside, another letter from her father and a USB drive. The letter if you're reading this, the worst has happened, but you're alive. That's all we ever wanted. The truth is, your mother and I were never innocent. We were part of the game too. We moved art for the families. We laundered money. We knew the risks. When the De Santis family came for us, it wasn't random. It was because we tried to leave. We tried to take you and your brother out. We failed. Raffaele's father gave the order. Raffaele was there. He was young. He didn't know the full target. He thought it was a warning. After, he hunted the men who did it. He killed them. He tried to make it right. He didn't know you survived until years later. I left this for you because I wanted you to know, forgiveness is not weakness. It's strength. If you found love in the ruins, hold it. If you found a family, protect it. We loved you more than life, your father. Celeste read it, then she read it again. Then she looked at Raffaele. He hadn't moved. He waited. She handed him the letter. He read it. His hands shook. When he finished, he looked at her. I didn't know, he said, voice raw. I know. She took the USB, plugged it into the lawyer's laptop. The files opened. Old recordings, photos, confessions, everything. She looked at Raffaele. Then she deleted them, all of them. The lawyer watched, said nothing. Celeste looked at him. Thank you. He nodded. You're welcome. They flew home. Back to Sicily. Back to the children. Back to the villa. That night, after Matteo and Livia were asleep, Celeste and Raffaele stood on the terrace. Sea calm, stars bright. She leaned against him. He wrapped his arms around her. She spoke quietly. I deleted it, he exhaled. Relief, grief, love. Why? Because the past is ash. We burned it. We don't need to carry it anymore. He kissed her hair. I love you. She turned in his arms, looked up. I love you too. They kissed, slow, deep, certain. The villa slept around them. The sea sang, and in the house that had once been thorns, then velvet, then home, now it was simply theirs. Forever. Chapter 19, The Last Horizon. The autumn of 2030 came late to Sicily, the air still thick with summer's heat, even as the leaves on the olive trees began to silver at the edges. The villa had never felt more alive. Matteo, now 6.5, all elbows and knees, running wild through the lemon grove with a kite he'd made from scrap paper and sticks. Livia, 4.5, trailing behind him with her own smaller kite, shouting orders like a tiny general. Celeste's belly was round again. Another baby due in early spring, a surprise they hadn't planned, but welcomed with the same quiet joy they'd learned to carry through everything. The gallery in Cefalù had become more than a business. It was a small institution. Local children filled the back room after school, painting with the same fierce concentration Celeste once had. Collectors from Rome and Paris came regularly now, but Celeste still refused to sell certain pieces, the ones that felt too personal, too raw. She kept them in the villa studio, where only Raffaele ever saw them. Raffaele himself had become the man he once thought impossible. He no longer carried a gun. He no longer checked the cameras at dawn. He still swam every morning, long, meditative strokes through the cove. But now he often took Matteo with him, teaching the boy how to float on his back and stare at the sky until the world felt small. He read to Livia at night, voice low and steady, until her eyelids drooped and her small hand relaxed in his. Life had settled into something rare. Peace that wasn't fragile, love that didn't need defending. Until the morning the final shadow arrived. It wasn't a letter, not a photo, not a threat. It was a visitor. A woman in her late 50s, silver hair pulled into a neat bun, wearing a simple linen dress and carrying nothing but a small leather satchel. She walked the private lane alone, no car, no escort. Elena met her at the gate, wary, but something in the woman's face made her pause. The woman spoke softly. My name is Sofia Moretti, Gio Moretti's sister, Antonio's aunt. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to end it. Elena called Raffaele. Raffaele came down alone. Celeste followed a minute later. Matteo and Livia inside with Tunde. Sofia stood on the other side of the gate. She looked at Raffaele, then at Celeste. Her eyes were tired, deep lines around them, but clear. I know who you are, she said. I know what my nephews did. I know what they tried to do to your family. Raffaele's hand rested on the pistol at his waist. Sofia saw it. She raised both hands, slow, empty. I came alone, unarmed. I have one thing to give you. She reached into the satchel, pulled out a small metal box, opened it. Inside, a single USB drive and a letter. Sofia spoke quietly. This is everything. The original tapes, the confessions, the orders, all of it. My nephews kept copies, hidden, scattered. I found them. I destroyed the rest. This is the last one. Celeste stepped forward. Why? Sofia looked at her. Because I lost 2 nephews to this war. Because I watched my brother destroy himself chasing revenge. Because I'm old and tired and I want it to end before my grandnieces and nephews have to carry it. She looked at Raffaele. I know you didn't give the final order. I know you tried to stop it after. I know you've spent years trying to make it right. She held the box out through the bars. Take it. Burn it. Let it be over. Raffaele looked at Celeste. Celeste looked at Sofia. Then she stepped forward, took the box, opened it, looked at the drive, then at the letter. She opened the letter, read it silently. It was short, from Sofia. I'm sorry for what my family did. I'm sorry for what they tried to do to yours. I can't bring anyone back, but I can make sure no one else has to suffer for it. Let this be the end. Celeste folded the letter, looked at Sofia. Thank you. Sofia nodded once. Then she turned, walked away, down the lane, disappeared. Raffaele opened the gate. Celeste walked through. He closed it behind her. They stood there, the box in her hands. She looked at him. Then she walked to the fire pit in the courtyard, lit it, waited until the flames were steady. Then she dropped the drive in, watched it melt, watched the letter curl and blacken. When nothing remained but ash, she looked at Raffaele. He stepped closer, pulled her into his arms. They stood there, watching the last embers die. Then she whispered, "It's really over." He kissed her hair. "It's really over." They went inside, upstairs, to the children. Matteo looked up from his drawing. Luster, "Who was that lady?" Celeste smiled. "Someone who wanted to say goodbye to old stories." Matteo nodded, like he understood. Livia climbed into Raffaele's lap. He held her close. Celeste sat beside them. They stayed like that. Family. Whole. The villa breathed around them. The sea sang below, and in the house that had once been thorns, then velvet, then home, now it was simply forever. Chapter 20. The Eternal Shore. The summer of 2040 arrived in Sicily with the kind of golden light that made every stone and leaf look as though it had been dipped in honey. 20 years had passed since the night Celeste first stepped into Raffaele's car in Milan. The villa had aged gracefully, ivy thicker on the walls, lemon trees taller, the terrace stones worn smooth by countless footsteps. Matteo was 18, tall as his father, quiet intensity in his eyes, already accepted to university in Florence to study architecture. He wanted to build things that lasted, things that held people together. Livia was 16, fierce, artistic, her mother's sharp gaze and her father's stubborn heart. She painted like Celeste, but wrote poetry on the side, words that cut and healed in the same breath. The third child, Sofia, was 9, curious, gentle, the peacemaker between her older siblings, always carrying a book and a question. Celeste's gallery in Cefalù was now legendary. It had expanded twice. New wings, a small residency program for young artists, a children's workshop that ran year-round. Her own work hung in museums now, but she still painted every day in the villa studio, still signed every piece with the simple C she had used since the beginning. Raphael at 50 had silver at his temples and laugh lines that deepened when the children teased him. He had no title anymore. No Don, no boss, no empire. He was just Raffaele, husband, father, swimmer of coves, reader of bedtime stories, keeper of promises. Tunde had stayed. He lived in the guest house now, gray-haired but still loud, still telling stories, still the uncle who could make Livia laugh until she cried, and Matteo roll his eyes with affection. The family had grown in other ways too. Friends who had once been shadows in their past had become constants. People who came for holidays, for birthdays, for quiet dinners under the lemon trees. One evening in late July, the entire family gathered on the terrace. The sun was setting, red and gold bleeding into the sea. Matteo stood at the railing, looking out. Livia sat on the stone bench, sketchbook open. Sofia curled in Celeste's lap, head on her mother's shoulder. Raffaele stood behind Celeste, hands resting on her shoulders. No one spoke for a long time. Then Matteo turned, looked at his parents. "You never told us the whole story," he said. "The real one, not the soft version." Celeste and Raffaele exchanged a glance. Raffaele nodded once. Celeste took a breath, and they told them. Everything. The bombing, the survival, the years of running, the night in Milan, the villa, the attacks, the choices, the forgiveness. They told them about the fear. The love, the nights they thought they wouldn't survive, the mornings they woke up grateful they had. They didn't hide the darkness, they didn't soften the blood, they told the truth. When they finished, silence fell again. Matteo looked at his father. "You were part of it." Raffaele met his son's eyes. "I was." Matteo nodded, slow, processing. Then he looked at his mother. "And you forgave him." Celeste smiled, soft, real. "I chose him. Every day. I still do." Livia closed her sketchbook, looked at her parents. "So love is stronger than hate." Celeste reached out, took Livia's hand. "Love is stronger than anything." Sofia looked up at her mother. "Will we ever have to run?" Raffaele knelt in front of her. "No, Piccola, you will never have to run, not from this, not from anything. We made sure of that." Sofia smiled, small, trusting, good. They sat there as the sun finished setting. The sky turned indigo, stars appeared. Matteo spoke quietly. "I'm proud of you, both of you." Celeste's eyes filled. Raffaele's did too. They pulled the children close, all 5 of them, family, whole. The villa stood behind them, the sea sang below, and in the house that had once been thorns, then velvet, then home, then forever, now it was legacy, passed on, not in blood or violence, but in love, in truth, in the quiet certainty that some stories don't end in fire, they end in light. 20 years after the night, a girl who should have been dead stepped into a Mafia boss's car. She sat on a terrace in Sicily, surrounded by the family she had built, the man she had chosen, the life they had fought for. and for the first time in her life, there were no shadows left to run from, only horizons, endless, golden. Hers. The end. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more chapters that keep you in the loop.